Hello and welcome to the Book Plays Book 1818 in our Lone Wolf Wednesday series. We are up to The Dawn of Dragons, having just finished the Death Lord of Ixia with its horrible, horrible difficulty. So many deaths. Like, our number of deaths has doubled. Ugh. But oh well. The story so far. You are Grandmaster Lone Wolf of Summerland, sole survivor of a massacre that wiped out the First Order of the Kai, an elite warrior caste. It is the year MS 5077. 27 years since your brave kinsman perished at the hands of the Dark Lords of Helgadad. Morning, Salah. These champions of evil, who were sent forth by Nar, King of Darkness, to destroy the fertile world of Magnamond, have themselves since been destroyed. You vowed to avenge the murder of the Kai, and you kept your pledge. For it was you who brought about their downfall. When alone you infiltrated their foul domain, the Darklands, and caused the destruction of their leader, at the base of his power that was the infernal city of Helgadad. In the wake of their destruction, chaos befell the Darkland armies, who, until then, had been poised to conquer all of Magnamond. One sec. Some factions which were part of this huge army, most notably the barbaric Dracarim, began to fight with the others for control. This disorder quickly escalated into an all-out civil war, which allowed the Freeland armies of Magnamond time in which to recover and launch a counter-offensive. Skillfully, their commanders exploited the chaos and secured a swift and total victory over an enemy far superior in numbers. For 7 years now, peace has reigned in Summerland. Under your direction, the once ruined monastery of the Kai has been thoroughly rebuilt and restored to its former glory. And the task of teaching a new order of Kai warriors the skills and traditions of your ancestors is also well established. The new generation of Kai recruits, all of whom were born during the era of war against the Dark Lords, possess latent skills and show exceptional promise. These skills will be nurtured and honed to perfection during their time here at the monastery, so that they may teach and inspire future generations, thereby ensuring the continued security of your homeland in future years. Your attainment of the rank of Grand Master brought with it great rewards. Some, such as the restoration of the Kai and the undying gratitude of your fellow Summerlanding, could well have been anticipated. Yet, there have been rewards which you could not possibly have foreseen. The discovery that within you lay the potential to develop Kai disciplines beyond those of a Magna Kai, which until now were thought to be the ultimate to which a Kai master could aspire, was truly a revelation. Your discovery has inspired you to set upon a new and previously unknown path, in search of the wisdom and power that no Kai Lord before you has ever possessed. In the name of your creator, the God Kai, and for the greater glory of Summerland, and the goddess Ashir, you have vowed to reach the very pinnacle of Kai perfection, to attain all of the Grandmaster disciplines and become the first Kai Supreme Master. We're level 18? Kind of. It's kind of one book per level, in that, yes, there are often checks that say how many previous books have you done. So, kind of yes. With diligence and determination, you set about the restoration of the monastery and the training of the new order recruits. Well, that comes down to a question, Dawn Treader, of do you start at level 0 or do you start at level 1? Do you use 0 offset matrix notation? Your efforts were soon rewarded. Within the space of 2 short years, the first raw recruits had graduated to become a cadre of gifted Kai masters, who, in turn, were able to commence the teaching of their skills to subsequent intakes of Kai novices. Readily, the Kai masters rose to their newfound responsibilities, leaving you free to devote more of your time to the pursuit and perfection of the Kai Grand Master disciplines. During this period, you also received expert tutelage in the ways of magic from your 2 most trusted friends and advisors, Guildmaster Bane, leader of the Brotherhood of the Crystal Star, and Lord Ramoa, speaker for the High Council of the Elder Mages of Desi. In the deepest subterranean level of the monastery, 100 feet below the Tower of the Sun, you ordered the excavation and construction of a special vault. In this magnificent chamber... Yes, exactly, Salah. Bane, our oldest and most trusted ally. In the deepest... a special vault. In this magnificent chamber, wrought of granite and gold, you placed the 7 law stones of Nixita. Despite the fact that several of them were told to disappear when we touched them and get absorbed into us. Let's not question the continuity. The gems of Kai power, which you have recovered during an earlier quest for Kai knowledge. In this vault, bathed in the golden light of those radiant gems, you spent countless hours in the pursuit of perfection. Sometimes alone, sometimes in the company of your 2 able advisors, Bane and Ramoa. You worked hard to develop your innate Grandmaster disciplines and grasp the fundamental secrets of Brotherhood and Old Kingdom magics. It actually should be plural there. Yeah, it should be plural. During this time, you noticed many remarkable changes taking place within your body. You became physically and mentally stronger. Your 5 primary senses sharpened beyond all that you had experienced before. And perhaps most remarkably, your body began to age at a slower rate. Now, for every 5 years that elapse, you age but 1. In the years following your victory over the Dark Lords, peace has reigned victorious, and the peoples of the free kingdoms rejoice in the knowledge that the evil that once threatened to destroy them has been banished from the face of Magnamund. Readily men have exchanged their swords for plowshares, and their shields for plows. And now the only marching they do is along the ruts of their freshly furrowed fields. Few are the watchful eyes that scan the distant horizon in fear of what may happen, although there are still those who maintain their vigilance, for the agents of the dark god Na come in many guises, and there are those upon Magnamund who wait quietly in the shadows for the chance to do his evil bidding. Already your newfound skills have been tested against Na's agents, and you have, on each occasion, acquitted yourself admirably. But your continuing victories against his minions have enraged the Dark God and inflamed his lust for vengeance. One such minion, the powerful Death Lord of Ixia, threatened to enslave the free nations of Magnamund with a weapon forged by Na himself. Bravely, you ventured alone into the Death Lord's icy domain and confronted him in a life-or-death battle in which you were triumphant. After enough timeline resets. However, as you were returning from the Death Lord's frigid realm, you learned that Summerland has been attacked. In your absence, Na has sent forth a host of dragon creatures to destroy the new order of the Kai and lay waste to your homeland. This news came as a terrible shock. In Ixia, you had won a great victory over evil, the Kai mastery of Chim. Yet at what cost? You had no doubt that the new order were worthy Kai warriors, but they were still young and their mettle as of yet untested in the furnace heat of battle. Secretly you feared they would be unable to resist Na's newest champions, and so you resolved to return as quickly as possible to Summerland and take command of the monastery to orchestrate your country's defences. In the court of King Sarniak of Lencia, in the city of Vidira, you received a pledge from the king himself that he would do all in his power to help speed your long journey home. Accompanied by Lord Arden, a friend and magician from the land of Desi, you were put aboard a Lencian clipper, one of the fastest of all seagoing vessels. The ship was bound for Garthan, the principal city of Telestria, which lies more than 1,000 miles to the east of Videra. This was to be the first stage of your journey back to Summerland, a destination more than 2,000 miles from Lencia. Yet as you set sail from Vidira, you knew that you were embarking upon a race against time, a desperate race in which the future of your country and the new order of the Kai were at stake. Okay. What do we want? Advanced animal control, advanced knowing which path to take, magic type 2, we would gain shield, power world, power word and invisible fist, or shall we study under Guildmaster Bane? We would learn Lightning Hand, Levitation, and Mind Charm. I think we will receive expert tutelage from our dear friend, Guildmaster Bane of the Brotherhood of the Crystal Star. We will add axe to our list of weapons that we're really, really, really good with. How much cash do we have on hand, and what do we have left? We ate all our potions. We have lantern, rope, meal. I don't think we'll need an onyx key. I don't think we'll need the green gem. Those feel like things that we only needed the last book. And I can probably deposit a little more money. Let's go. Ooh, it says you already have too many objects. Yeah, I'm going to assume that we're okay with that. Okay. We rolled really, really well on our money roll. And go back up to full money. Do I need a third rope? I don't think I actually need a third rope. But we'll grab a third rope anyway. And then meal. Meal. Can you ever have too much rope as an adventurer? In order to find the quickest route from... No. Be on guard at all times, blah, 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 and then the usual talk about no matter how poorly... If you are building a new character, no matter how poorly you rolled for your starting combat or endurance scores, you should be able to succeed with luck and if you are wise. And I call bullshit. If someone could roll a new character and win that previous book without any of the items that we carried over, I would like to see it. And so we begin. At least without needing dozens and dozens of rolls. You set sail from Vidira Harbour on a bitterly cold, grey late winter's day. The masts of your host ship, the Lencian clipper Saxon, have been rigged with every available square inch of canvas to catch prevailing winds that will, with luck, propel you quickly to Telestria, the first stage of your journey home. The clipper is a sleek and impressive craft, and its departure does not go unnoticed. Yet of all the many Lencians who have turned out to watch and wave, only King Sarnak and his closest advisors know the true purpose of this voyage. Once the Saxon is beyond the sheltering walls of Vidira Harbour, its captain charts an easterly course along the Tentarius, the chain of seas and landlocked lakes that separate the two continents of Magnamond. You and your companion, Lord Arden, settle into the ship's easy routine, and with few onboard duties to perform, you endeavour to pass the long hours constructively. With the aid of a map that he gives you, Arden briefs you on the route you should travel if you were to reach Summerland as quickly as possible. You spend your time discussing the details of the route and pondering the new evil, with capital E, which threatens your homeland and the Kai. Every night you lie awake on your bunk, staring at the tattered beams of your cabin. Oh no, Tard. You wish away the miles that separate you from your beloved homeland. You want, most of all, to be with your young Kai acolytes in this dark hour, but fate has seen fit to place a great distance between you. Fearful of what you may find when you arrive home, perhaps too late, every night you offer up your prayers to the gods Ashir and Kai, to help speed your return to Summerland. Can we actually see on the map where we... I'm interested in this map, because we're travelling a pretty bloody big distance. Okay, so what? We're down here and we're going to go... And then across... It seems a bit weird that they might have us travelling across the banner. Although maybe we'll land here and then go across. We'll see. 10 days after leaving Vidira, the Saxon drops anchor in Varnos Harbour. In Garthen, well, now we can find out where we land. Just as I was complaining. Okay, so we are here now, supposedly. So maybe we started off map and we came across to here. The capital town of Telestria. Its sleek and elegant lines in Lencian craft starkly contrast with the drab, functional hulls of the merchant ships and dhows which crowd the city port's jetties and wharves. Lencian craft are a rare sight in Garthen, and the Saxon is the rarest of Lencian craft. It is no wonder that its arrival has stirred a frenzy of interest and speculation among the citizens of the capital. Word of your arrival travels quickly to the royal citadel, and the troops of Queen Evaine's court cavalry are dispatched to the harbour. Led by a stern-faced man who wears the uniform and gold insignia of the Lord Constable, the highest military rank in the Telestrian army. He brings his column of regal horsemen to a halt at the quayside. Then he dismounts and strides forward to welcome you in person as you disembark from the ship. If you've ever visited this location before in a previous book, which we have, turn here. The smooth, dark hair and noble countenance of the Lord Constable are oddly familiar, reminding you of someone whose name you momentarily cannot recall. "Welcome, my lord," he says with a respectful salute. "I am Nathor, Lord Constable of the Royal Citadel. My troop would be honoured to escort you to audience with Queen Evian." "Pray tell, Lord Constable, have we not met before?" "No, sire. I venture that you must be thinking of my late brother, Adamus. He held the office of Lord Constable before me. I understand that you and he once fought together in the war against the Dark Lords. He spoke most highly of your courage. Sadly, he is no longer with us. He died valiantly during the great siege of Torgar." You accept Lord Constable Nathor's offer of an escort to Queen Evian's citadel, and call to Lord Arden, who had been watching from the decks of the Saxon, to come and join you. As Arden disembarks, Nathor gives a signal to his men, who are busy keeping the inquisitive crowd of citizens at bay. They clear a gap in the pressing wall of the curious, wide-eyed Garthians, and a moment later the horse-drawn coach comes trundling through towards the quay. Once you and Arden are safely aboard, Lord Constable Nathor shouts a terse command to the driver, and the coach speeds away from the harbour, escorted by the troop of court cavalry. A swervingly swift journey through Garthen's steep, narrow streets ends when the coachman reins in the horses, hail Noodleski, in the courtyard of the royal citadel. Everywhere you look, you see soldiers of the royal household in uniforms bedecked with glittering braid. A fanfare of trumpets. I don't know, Noodleski. Maybe you've been lurking for some. A fanfare of trumpets announces your arrival, and with minimal delay, Nathor escorts you personally to the State Hall, where Queen Evian of Telestria, seated upon a throne and surrounded by dozens of her court advisors, is waiting patiently for you to appear. "Welcome, Grand Master," she says graciously. "We have been expecting you. King Sarnak sent word of your arrival by Message Hawk, and we've made arrangements to help speed your passage homewards. And well, Noodleski, there's always YouTube. I think we're up to like book 6 at the moment for the main channel, and the VOD log channel should have everything. Respectfully, you bow to the Queen and voice your thanks for the cooperation she has seen fit to offer." "Not at all, Grand Master." Is it? It's like 20 books, Noodleski, and we're up to book 18. It's a book, but it's a book, Noodleski, where it's a bit like D&D. Like, we have combat stats. In the top left, you can see our attack skill, essentially. In the top right, you can see our current hit points. And then in a choose-your-own-adventure book, maybe you read the Goosebumps books or something similar as a kid, it might say, do you choose to go down the shady path into the forest or follow the cliffside path that you might fall down the cliffs? And you sort of make decisions and you turn to one page or another to make a decision about which way you go in the story. It's like that, but it also has D&D-esque combat as well. So you'll run into enemies and you'll have to fight them, and you don't roll a dice. There's a random number table at the back of the book that you'd do this, you'd wiggle your hand back and forth and then open it whilst holding a pen, and whatever number you were, pen or pencil, you were hovering your pen over when you open your eyes again was the number that you rolled, and then you do the same for the enemy, and you compare your attack stat plus your random number to the enemy's attack stat plus their random number, and then there's a table that says, based on the difference, how much damage you or they receive. And so it's a combination of a choose-your-own-adventure and sort of D&D combat. It's pretty much like a D&D campaign, but being run by a book instead of a person, and with a lot less choice than a real campaign then, because like a real person can let you go in any direction, but the books only have certain specific paths that you can go down. Okay, now where were we? Respectfully you bow to the Queen and voice your thanks for the cooperation she has seen fit to offer you. Not at all, Grandmaster, for Telestria is in your debt. Were it not for you, our land would be in the thrall of the Dark Lords. With this, Queen Evian dismisses her advisor and motions for you, Arden, and Lord Constable Nathor to approach her at the foot of her throne. I understand the urgency of your journey, Grandmaster, she says, her voice hushed as if she fears being overheard, but I must caution you to be on guard. The Dark God Nar's agents are abroad with plans to thwart your homecoming. I have received word from my garrisons in the north that Zlanbeast and Cran riders have been sighted in the night skies. They venture forth from the ruins of the Dark Lord cities of Nadgazad and Cragmantle, sent by the express command of Nar himself. They now know that you have triumphed in Ixia and are watching expectantly for your return trip home. I thank you for this information, Your Majesty, but I am sure that I can avoid these night riders, you reply confidently. I have no doubt of this, Grandmaster, but they are not the only agents in Nar's employ. Word of your coming has... Doggo is barking. Word of your coming has spread like wildfire throughout the shadowy underworld of thieves and assassins. There are great rewards of gold and dark magic that has been offered for your death. With respect, Your Majesty, you reply, tactfully masking your skepticism. How could you know this to be true? It is true, Grandmaster. I've heard it from the very lips of an assassin who was plotting your murder here in the heart of my capital. He was captured while attempting to recruit others and is being held prisoner in the dungeons. Perhaps you would welcome the chance to question this man yourself. If you wish to accept Queen Evian's offer and would question the would-be assassin, turn to 132. If you choose not to question the prisoner, turn to 111. Yeah, sure, we'll ask the prisoner. The Queen commands the Lord Constable to take you to the dungeons, which are located several levels below State Hall. Here, shackled to the dank stone wall of a rat-infested cell, the man who was caught in the Garthan Tavern plotting your murder. Limp and unconscious, he hangs by the wrist in chains, his emaciated body showing all too clearly the signs of recent tortures. A pot-bellied jailer scoops a bucket of foul water from a trough by the cell door and revives the prisoner by pouring it unceremoniously, g'day Goka, over his head. Coughing and spluttering, the wretched... It should be like the wretched person. I suppose they're referring to him as the wretched. Stirs to consciousness. He raises his face and you sense that he recognizes immediately who you are. His eyes blaze with undisguised hatred. He's a toughen. I used all my skills, but he won't say who his paymaster be. The fat jailer reaches for a pair of long-handled pincers that are protruding from the brazier of hot coals. Perhaps you'll be wanting to interrogate him yourself, sire, he says, offering you the pincers. Wisps of smoke curl from their sharpened tips, which are glowing and red. Aye, jailer, there are questions I'd like this man to answer. Afternoon, Death said. But I'll not be heeding those, you reply, declining the use of the pincers. I prefer to rely on my own methods of interrogation. Okay, so we can either use our newfound Bane-based magic, or we can try and mentally attack him. Or if we suck, we have to turn to these pages. Magic torture, or mental torture? I'm going to go with psychic torture. Psychic torture sounds best to me. Ooh, we fail. We focus our psychic powers and launch a pulse of energy at his mind in an attempt to weaken his resolve. You sense... Oh no, it just cost us health. Okay. You sense that his memory is protected by a magical shield, but it proves to be ineffective against our psychic probe. He shrieks with fear as his body is racked by uncontrollable tremors. You command the prisoner to reveal the identity of the person who sent him here to murder you, and a mass of images swirls in his mind's eye. The images of a past meeting in a far-off place, which you recognize to be Duodon, capital city of Eldanora. You see a shadowy figure, sheathed in ornate chainmail, handing a bulging pouch of coins to the prisoner in a dimly lit alleyway. The figure speaks your name before melting into the shadows. Who is this person? You say, commanding the trembling prisoner to answer. He parts his bruised lips and tries to utter a name, but no sound emerges. You sense that he is fighting to overcome the remnants of the shielding spell placed upon his mind. Moving closer, you try and make out the name he is struggling hard to whisper. Cautiously, you place your ear close to his mouth and try to identify the name he is struggling to utter. Luthia, he breathes. Then he gives a chilling snigger, and you feel the hairs on the nape of your neck begin to rise. Your sixth sense is screaming. You are in danger. With his tongue, the prisoner dislodges a hollow tooth and bites down hard upon it. It releases a vile green gas, which he exhales directly in your face. If you have advanced immunity to temperatures and gas, turn here. If you do not have this skill, turn here. Luckily, we do have advanced immunity to temperatures and gas. You recoil from the insidious green cloud. Yeah, g'day, Dutchy. And fall back towards the cell door. Your mastery of Nexus protects you from the poisonous gas, but the jailer and Lord Nathar are not so fortunate. They are both vulnerable to its deadly effect. Choking and retching, they collapse to the floor, their fingers scrabbling at their swelling throats as they fight desperately for breath. You grab hold of their tunics, one in each hand, and drag their bodies from the cell to the clearer air of the corridor beyond. Here you use your discipline of healing to ease the effects of the poison gas. Your skill and the swiftness of your action save them from a painful, suffocating death. What happened? Wheezes Nathor as he slowly recovers from the deadly gas. You peer into the cell at the man hanging limply in chains, and then turn to Nathor and say, suicide. A suicide and attempted murder. He killed himself with a poison pellet, and it seems his last wish was to attempt to take the three of us with him. When you sense that the gas cloud has dissipated, and the air is no longer perilous to breathe, you enter the cell and take one last look at the prisoner's body. The man's face and upper body have been horribly disfigured by the effects of the gas, yet the extensive blistering has only partially destroyed a small tattoo on the side of his neck. A six-pointed star, which you recognize to be the national symbol of Eldanora. He must have died within seconds of biting into the pellet. It chills me to think that whoever sent him here commanded such respect from this man that he chose to die in this way rather than face the consequences of failing his mission. Aye, and if there are others like him out there to stop me, you reply uneasily, my journey home may prove more difficult than I had expected. You leave the cell and return to the State Hall, where Lord Constable Nathor reports what has happened to the Queen. Concerned for your safety, she suggests that you spend the night in the royal citadel as her guest. You accept her gracious invitation and enjoy a fine feast and the hospitality of her court. Shortly after dawn the following day, you bid Her Majesty and your companion, Lord Arden, a fond farewell before beginning the next stage of your long journey home. Mindful of the dangers, the Queen gives her Lord Constable a royal seal and places him, along with a troop of 10 court cavalrymen, at your disposal. Lord Nathor and his men are to act as your guides and bodyguards on the road to Vanamore, the capital city of neighbouring Palmrium. The Republic is closely tied to Telestria and lies along its eastern border. Palmrium also has close ties with your homeland, and you look forward to the chance of renewing your friendship with its leader, Elector Manatine. Mounted on fine Telestrian steeds, your party leaves the walled city of Garthan by its east gate. Here you cross a great stone bridge on the far side, which has a signpost pointing to the east. It reads, Vanamore, 280 miles. Let's see where we are on the map now. Okay, so we're making our way across to Skade. They made it sound like we'd be going more through this area. But whatever. The road which crosses the plains to the east of the river is deeply rutted. Fortunately, though, it is dry, there having been little rain in the past few weeks. Progress is good, and by midday you and the troop have covered more than 30 miles. You pass many wagons on the road, mostly driven by farmers taking their crops to the markets and wharves of Garthan. The wagon drivers are an unusually loyal and friendly breed. Invariably, they wave and cheer the moment they recognize the uniforms of Queen Evianne's court cavalry. After a brief rest at a village on the road, you continue your ride across the open plains and descend into a wide valley where a shallow stream winds its way through a mass of reed beds and willow copses. Beyond this valley, the land becomes increasingly hilly. The sun is almost touching the horizon when you come to a small wayside shrine dedicated to the goddess Ashir. Here, a track leads off to the north, and, a mile distant, you can make out the walls and bell tower of a chateau high in the hills. It is the monastery of the Vaderish Brethren, says Lord Nathor. They are a holy order, devoted to worship of the goddess Ashir. We shall find safe shelter with them this night. The sun has set and dusk is quickly turning to darkness by the time the troop reaches the gates of the Vaderish monastery. The brothers of this holy order are led by an elderly monk called Razbaran, whom Nathor has met before. The old cleric welcomes him warmly, as though he were his son, and then invites you to stay overnight. The monk's evening meal is simple fare, g'day decoy, well prepared and wholesome. Restore any damage you have received in your adventure so far. Afterwards, Razbaran invites you and Nathor to his chambers to sample some of the monk's speciality, a fine liqueur called aquas. You are raising a glass of this golden liquid to your lips when suddenly the piece is shattered by a loud cawing skreek, which echoes through the surrounding hills. If you have spirit walking, turn here. If you don't, turn here. I do have spirit walking. In the name of the gods, splutters Nathor, spilling the liqueur down the front of his tunic. What was that? A knot of fear tightens in the pit of your stomach. It is a cran, you reply, recognizing at once the fell cry of this unwelcome creature. You hurry to a window and see the large bat-like cran silhouetted against the moon. A man-sized rider clings precariously to the creature's reptilian back as it swoops and soars among the hills and gullies. You'd best come away from the window, my lord, lest it detect your presence. You take heed of the Lord Constable's advice and retreat from the window. Furthermore, you use your Magna Chi skill of Psi Screen to shield your mind in case the rider is able to employ psychic abilities to locate your presence. It is not the first time it has come. Every night for the past 10 days we've heard it circling the hills. Sometimes there is more than one. He suggests that you bunk in the cellar, where you might find it safer to avoid detection, and you accept his offer gladly. For hours, the sounds of the cran's incessant cry echoes among the surrounding hills, making it difficult for you to sleep, as you lie awake listening to its ghastly call. A sense of foreboding invades your mind, and despite your strong will, you feel powerless to overcome it. Restless and agitated, you get up and pace around the cellar until at last the cawing ceases, and a chorus of birdsong ushers in the dawn. You take 3 hit point damage because you didn't sleep properly. You join the troop for breakfast with Rasbarin and his brothers. During the meal, an elderly monk offers you a flask of aquas to fortify you on the road ahead, and a talisman of Ashir to ward off hostile creatures. They are not special items, they are normal items. After breakfast, Nathor thanks Rasbarin for his hospitality and makes a donation of 50 gold to his monastery. If before leaving you would like to make a donation, erase from your action chart. Well, we're full on money. I will go with 30 gold. Let's be exceedingly generous. Why would I want to look at the objects? Oh, so that I can take them. Sure. And we will trade one of our excess ropes, because 3 ropes is perhaps a little excessive, for the bottle of liqueur. Continue. Overhead, the sun gleams like a jewel in the clear blue sky, and the early morning air bites with a refreshing sharpness that helps revive your spirits. A thick layer of frost covers the stony trail from the monastery, and it scrunches loudly under the horse's hooves as you make your careful descent. Soon you rejoin the east road and follow it through a series of shallow gorges to a thick pine forest where the ground is covered with mossy rocks. Here the road ascends to a crest where a pall of black smoke stains the cloudless sky. As you approach the crest, you suddenly sense danger ahead and shout a warning to Nathor. He commands the troop to come to a halt while you go ahead to assess the situation. Beyond the crest, you see a broad valley with steeply wooded sides. At its center is a village and a large stone building, which, as you magnify your vision, you determine is a church. The roof is ablaze, and several bodies lie dotted around its cultivated grounds and gardens. You signal to Nathor to join you, and when he arrives upon the crest, he is able to identify the burning church. That is Pine Peak's Abbey, he says, his voice stilted with anxiety. They're in trouble. We must help them. He calls his men to come forward, and, before you can caution him, leads them at a gallop down the steep trail which descends towards the valley floor. Cursing his impetuosity. Now that's not... I've heard impetuousness, but not impetuosity. Oh well, cursing his impetuosity, you spur your steed onwards and follow in his wake. You have covered less than half a mile when suddenly your Magna Chi sense of divination screams a warning. The troop is riding directly into an ambush. It could be right. I've just never seen it used that way. Desperately, I've always seen it used as cursing his impetuousness. Desperately, you shout for Nathor to halt, but your command goes unheeded. Then, from the surrounding pines comes a volley of arrows and spears. One penetrates deep into your horse's flank, killing him instantly. Somehow I find hard to believe. Anyway, pick a number from the random number table. You have selected 4. We didn't critical fail. We only middle failed. So we're thrown from our horse. Your slain horse crashes to the ground, and you are thrown through the air. You land among the boulders and bracken which border the hill road, but your swift Kai reflexes prevent you from sustaining too serious an injury. Take 2 hit points of damage. Bruised but unshaken, you spring to your feet in time to see a yelling horde of leather-clad men, each brandishing a sword or spear, rushing from the hiding places among the surrounding trees. As they close in upon you, you draw your weapon and prepare to fight for your life. Ambushes. 38 skill, 42 health. They are seriously less skillful than me to the point where I don't think we even need to use our psychic attack. They do 1 damage. They do 2 more damage. They do a 4th damage, and they are dead. Butterscratch. As the last of the blobber-approved situation, we kind of need to get back quickly. Ideally, Guildmaster Bane would have arrived at the city we were at with his flying ship, but he must be busy doing other things. As the last of your attackers collapses at your feet, you turn and run headlong down the steep hill track. Arrows and spears whistle past on all sides as you endeavour to outrun the remaining ambushes. He's too busy doing pick-cross. By dint of luck and speed, Nathor and his troop of court cavalrymen survived the ambush with little injury and no loss of life. You see them in the distance, gathered in a group on the valley floor, and you wave to them to show that you are still alive. Immediately, Nathor gallops away from his troop and comes speeding up the track to your rescue. As he gets nearer, he slows... for fudge's sake. Just a sec. Where were we? Immediately, Nathor gallops away from his troop and comes speeding up the track to your rescue. As he gets nearer... just hit refresh, Dutchy. As he gets nearer, he slows his horse to allow you to leap astride its rump. Once aboard, he pulls his steed about and descends once more towards the valley floor, cheered on by his anxious men. You already... Well, I see me. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. Follow me, commands Lord Constable. As he gallops past his troop without slowing, you glance over your shoulders and see them spur their steeds forward, their faces set in expressions of grim determination. Upon entering the village, you note a number of frightened women and children huddled beside a stone wall and lying beneath hay carts. Welcome back, Dutchy. It is such a... They are really cute little doggos, the Deviper ones. Some are cradling the bodies of their dead menfolk who lie scattered in the fields nearby. Then you catch sight of a group of Eldenorians in the grounds of the Abbey, laden with loot, yet even so there are some who are squabbling amongst themselves in an effort to grab an even bigger share of the booty. Nathor brings his steed to a halt, and you both quickly dismount. As your feet touch the ground, you notice... Yes, cute doggo, and then you stab me. You notice a drunken Eldoranan lurching out of the doorway of a nearby cottage. He has a flagon of ale of one hand and a young woman with a crying baby in the other. He sees you and in a moment of drunk panic drops the flagon and unsheaths a dagger from his belt. It is clear from his actions that he intends to stab the screaming child. If you have the other kind of magic, the magic we don't have, and have completed this many previous books, turn here. If you possess psychic attack, turn here. Or if you have a bow and wish to shoot him, turn here. Let's psychically destroy him. Using your discipline, you launch a concentrated burst of psychic energy at the drunken thud. This bolt penetrates his mind and stuns him, causing him to freeze in place like a statue. You take 1 damage. Unfortunately, this temporary paralysis also prevents the young woman and the child from breaking free from his grasps. After a few moments, the thug emerges from his state of psychic shock in a murderous mood, and you're forced to draw your weapon and rush towards him in an effort to stop him before he can enact his revenge upon the innocent captive child. Moments before you reach him, he throws the young woman and her child to the ground and spins around to face you. His dagger held poised to slash at your throat. He strikes and you dodge his first clumsy blow with ease. As he is about to strike for a second time, you raise your weapon and aim a scything blow at his head. Have I got a bluey? We do not presently. We have, for a period of about 15 years, we've been guide dog carers, so we've mostly had either Labradors or golden hair retrievers, because Mum did guide dog puppy education volunteer work, where we would raise the puppies between when they're 6 weeks old and like a year and a half when they go off to guide dog university. But between the ages of 0 and 22, yes, we had 2 blue healers when I was growing up. A boy between when I was 0 and 18, and between when I was 15 and about 25, a girl. Boy and girl blue healers, respectively. Anyway, we fight our drunk thug. He is extremely unskilled, and he doesn't actually have very much health. So he should be child's play. He literally only causes a scratch. Thank you, cries the young woman, whose child you have just saved from a certain death at the hands of the drunken thug. Sobbing with gratitude, she collapses at your feet. Gently, you lift her by the arm and assure her with kind words that her ordeal is over. She smiles, reassured, but her expression quickly changes when she spots something moving behind you. There he is, that cur, Holkar, she spits, the murdering leader of these bandits. This chaos is his doing. That is an ugly lady. Well, the baby's no prettier. You turn to look at the object of her hatred and see a swarthy brigand dodging between the gravestones that line the abbey's grounds. He has a sack full of loot slung over his shoulder, and he's hurrying towards his horse, which stands close by the abbey's perimeter wall. Determined not to let him escape, you rush across the road and into the grounds of the abbey to give chase. Turn to 206. The brigand leader mounts his horse. Before he can make good his escape, you take a running leap over the abbey wall and drag him out of the saddle. Together you crash into the frost-hardened ground, and he desperately kicks and struggles to break free from your steely grip. Out of his boot he snatches a stiletto blade and thrusts it viciously at your throat. You dodge your head aside, avoiding its razor-sharp tip, but in doing so, let the brigand slip from your hands. He rolls away and begins to rise to his feet, but freezes, eyes wide in fearful recognition as he stares at your face. Lone wolf? He gasps, mortified as if confronting a ghost. "Drop the dagger and surrender." You order, leveling your weapon at his head to reinforce your command. Swiftly, his expression changes from one of shock to sneering defiance. "You'll never take me alive," he spits. And to your shocked surprise, he thrusts the dagger deep into his own chest. If you have super advanced healing and super high level, turn here. You rush to the brigand's side and wrench the dagger from his chest. The wound is deep and you sense that it has penetrated his heart. He has only seconds to live. Calling upon your advanced healing skills, you cause the torn tissue of his heart wall to knit together sufficiently to stem the bleeding. "How do you know my name? Who sent you here and what is your purpose?" He tries to smile through his pain, and a trickle of crimson blood runs from the corner of his mouth. You are the reason that I am here. I came looking for you, to finish you. But it is I who is finished now. Luther will not be pleased. And then as a fit of coughing reopens his punctured chest, with a final gurgling gasp, he expires in your arms. You get to your feet and look around at the devastation he and his men have brought to the sleepy village of Pine Peaks. Leaderless, the remaining brigands abandon their loot and flee to the wooded hills to rejoin their confederates, who attempted to ambush the troop when first you entered the valley. Nathor's men have secured the village and are helping the villagers to fight fires burning in several of the cottages. Turn to 126. You help Nathor and the villagers to fight the fires threatening to consume their humble homes, using your skill of Nexus to good effect. And when you've saved all you can, you summon the troop together to assess the situation. 6 brigands and 2 court cavalry troopers were killed during the brief fight to secure the village. The villagers themselves have lost 8 of their menfolk, several wounded and some missing, presumed to be hiding in the woods. They've retained most of their possessions, but the abbey was gutted by the fire which Holkar and the thugs started. Nathor conducts a burial for the slain villagers and his 2 men, which were slain during the attack, and pledges that Queen Evian will be informed of what has happened here this day. Her Majesty will see that justice is done, he assures the tearfully gathered peasants. The bandit realm of Eldenora will be made to pay for this crime. After the burial, Lord Nathor gives to the village elders a weighty purse of silver loon, and a horse which belonged to one of the slain men. It is a small token for the loss that they have suffered, but one appreciated by the villagers. The other horse is given to you to replace your steed that was killed during the ambush. It's mid-afternoon when the troop resumes the long journey east to Vanamore. During the ride, Lord Nathor voices his grave concern that Eldenorian bandits should be operating in the heart of his country. They've rarely dared to venture so far from home before. Although he doesn't say so, you sense that he knows the reason why they have become so bold. They have been sent here to find and kill you. The road climbs out of the valley and zigzags its way through the forested hills to a high pass. Beyond this pass, there stretches a wide expanse of lush grasslands, where herds of wild deer roam and graze freely. It is late in the afternoon when you catch sight of a procession approaching on the road ahead. Mostly they are men, dressed in ragged brown robes, and one is carrying aloft a grimy banner which bears the image of a lightning bolt set upon a full moon. "Shoni pilgrims," says Nathor dismissively, "wandering beggar monks who have taken a vow of poverty. Many Agarthan regard them as just a gang of scroungers who pretend to be a holy order so that they can fleece the foolish. I suggest we ignore them and press on." If you wish to accept his advice and ignore the pilgrims, no, I will stop briefly and talk to them. Your decision to stop and speak with the pilgrims irritates the Lord Constable, but he bows to your authority and waits patiently for you to finish talking. You learn that the ragged group are on their way to Garthen. Their leader, a wretched person called Pospera, tells you of a strange camp that he and the pilgrims discovered last night, near a place on the road which he calls Red Rock. This information doesn't come cheap, and you are pressed by the pilgrims into making a donation to their cause. Deduct 5 crowns from your action chart. If you possess less than 5, delete one of your backpack items. Having satisfied your curiosity, you return to the troop and continue the ride east. For an hour, you ride across the rich grasslands of East Telestria until you come to a range of hills, carpeted with scented spruce and pine. The road snakes its way through this ruggedly beautiful landscape to a place where a smaller track branches off the main trail, heading south. A huge boulder of red granite marks the start of the adjoining track. There is no signpost to indicate where it leads. Using your tracking skills, you can determine that the track that has been used by the men and horses during the last 24 hours. We will continue along the main road. It is near dusk when you emerge from the hills and see the glimmering waters of the river Kinam, less than 5 miles distant. This great river marks the border between Telestria and Palmrian, Queen Evian's neighbouring ally. The road descends to a border toll bridge, beyond which you can see the sprawling town of Skard. Really? No, wrong thing. I didn't want backpack. I wanted map. We've only made it to here? I need to get all the way back here. It's like 12 times more distant than what we've done so far. It is near dusk when you emerge from the hills and see the glimmering waters of the river Kinam. Oh no, we said that. Blah blah blah. The troop is challenged by the bridge warden to halt and pay a fee of 100 silver loon. The fee is soon forgotten, though, when the Lord Constable shows the pedantic old "the horse is slowing us down, kill it and start walking," shows the pedantic old man his royal seal. With a stiff salute, he steps aside and bid you all a safe journey. Skade is a bustling market town which has grown rich and fat in the years following the defeat of the Dark Lords. Its brightly painted buildings and paved thoroughfares exude affluence, and even its lowly street beggars look clean and well fed in comparison to the other parts of Magnamund. Nathor, well, this is where the bloody beggars should have been coming towards then. Nathor leads the troop to an inn near the centre of town, a fine establishment called the Lucky Bucket. Its owner, a corpulent fellow with a polished bald pate, literally, he polishes his bald head, welcomes you with open arms. After the ordeal at Pine Peaks and the long day's ride, you are looking forward to a hot bath and a large supper. However, it soon transpires the inn is almost full and the owner can only provide room for 5 of the troop. Not to worry, I know Knight Tranius, lord of this manor. Many's a time I've hunted boar in these hills. His castle is but 2 miles from here. 5 could billet here tonight, while the rest of us lodge there. You agree to Nathor's proposal and set off with him, accompanied by 3 of the troop, along a river track that heads north to the castle. The river track runs parallel to the Kinam for nearly a mile before bearing east and entering a coppice of tall conifers. Now, that's not a word I've heard before. Coppice? An area or of woodland in which trees or shrubs are periodically cut back to ground level to stimulate growth and provide firewood for timber. Okay. The parapet of the bridge is lined with imposing stone statues, each depicting a past lord of Skade Manor. In the distance you can see Castle Tranius. Its curtain wall and fortified barbican are illuminated by torches, which were lit, as is the custom here, an hour before sunset. On arriving at the gatehouse, Lord Nathor and the rest of you are welcomed into the castle keep, where your horses are attended. A trio of knights comes to escort you to the hall, and as you follow them to the castle's upper chambers, Nathor asks after Gwytor, the Boar Master, and leader of Knight Tranius's hunts. "He is no longer with us," answers one of the guards. "He's gone away." "This smells like they've been taken over to me." Before Nathor can inquire further as to the whereabouts of his old hunt instructor, you are ushered into the castle's main hall and asked to wait. "I sense a trap." "It's quiet. Too quiet." "Be careful, it's a trap." The hall is lit by 100 sputtering candles and the light of a log fire that blazes in the chamber's imposing stone hearth. 3 tall arched windows, glazed with stained glass panels, are set into the south wall, and an impressive collection of books and fine tapestries line the others. Clearly, Knight Tranius is a refined man whose taste extends beyond hunting the occasional boar. After a few minutes, a concealed panel beside the fireplace slides open, and a broad-shouldered man, clad in wolf's skin cloak and a silver helm, steps into the hall. "Hail, Tranius," says Nathor. "It is good to—" The Lord Constable's words of greeting die in his throat, and immediately you sense something is very wrong. You hear a bolt slide shut outside the door to the hall, sealing it closed, and your senses scream, warning of impending danger. "You're not Tranius," shouts Nathor. "By the gods, who are you? If you have the summer sword, turn here." The figure beside the fireplace does not reply. Instead, it stretches out a gloved hand and takes up an iron rod lying upon the stone mantle. The moment its fingers close around the haft, crackling blue flame ignites at the tip. "Draw steel," commands Nathor, and his men respond by unsheathing their swords in readiness for combat. The summer sword hums with power as you release it from its scabbard and hold it before your face. You sense that the figure is not human. It possesses an aura of evil that marks it as a dark disciple, a magician versed in the forbidden black arts of the Nad-Ziranim. Suddenly there is a low concussive boom, and a spiral of blue flame shoots the length of the hole, fired from the tip of the figure's iron staff. It connects with the blade of your divine sword and rebounds, shattering one of the tall windows into 1,000 glittering shards. "Take him!" shouts Nathor, and his men rush forward. But a second blast from the stave puts an end to their brave advance. All 3 are cut down, and an arc of blue fire that leaves their corpses heaped and smouldering in the middle of the hole. Nathor curses the sinister figure, and it responds by uttering a chilling, inhuman laugh. Now you sense a new danger approaching. The being's sickly laughter is summoning its minions to the hole. "Lord Nathor," you cry, "we cannot prevail here. We must escape. Follow me." With these words, you race to the window and leap feet first through the shattered pane. Pick a number from the random number table. We rolled badly. For a few moments, you hurtle through the cold night air, oblivious to your surroundings. Then you glimpse the flagstones of the keep and the roof of the castle stables. More than 100 feet below, your stomach churns with fear. Steeling yourself from impact, you smash through the thatched roof of the stables and land amidst a tangle of hay and broken timbers. Moments later, Nathor comes crashing down through the roof and lands but a few yards from where you are lying. You are badly bruised, but have survived the fall. Nathor too is alive, but his injuries are more severe. His left ankle is badly broken and his face is a mess of cuts and contusions. Despite his obvious pain, he manages a smile, revealing gaps where he is missing 2 of his teeth. If you have super high healing, or if you wish to escape as quickly as possible... Nah, I'll heal you. Briefly, Nathor stifles his urge to scream as you take hold of his shattered ankle. You summon your healing powers and transmit them through your fingers to his injured foot. You take 3 hit points of damage. You feel the warmth of your power begin to reduce the swollen tissues and mend the broken bones. But before you can complete the cure, a yelling horde of bogus castle guardsmen come rushing into the stables with their swords drawn. You have barely enough time to draw your weapon before the imposters attack. I will use my psychic power and my psychic power, because these are skillful enough to warrant it. We took 7 damage, not too bad. You step away from their heaped bodies and sheath your bloodied weapon. Then you take hold of Nathor and heave him across the neck of a saddled horse. You mount this steed and urge it to the gallop, bursting forth from the stables at breakneck speed. Outside, the castle keepers are alive with the screams and curses as you steer your horse towards the gatehouse, where, to your mounting horror, you see the portcullis is beginning to close. Pick a number from the random number table. If you have spirit walking and have reached a high enough rank, add 2. If you possess hunt mastery, add 2. If you have animal mastery, add 1. Well, we have so many of those skills that we can't possibly get the ultra super hard fail. You race through the gatehouse, just moments before the heavy portcullis comes crashing down. Without daring to look back, you urge your horse through the wooden drawbridge and along the open track that lies beyond. The angry shouts of the gate guards echo from the battlements, but so too do the unexpected sounds of clanking chains and baying hounds. You have covered more than half a mile when you chance a glance over your shoulder. To your dismay, you see that you're being pursued by a snarling pack of wolf-like creatures with drooling fangs and eyes that gleam menacingly in the darkness. An icy chill invades your heart. These are no ordinary hunting hounds. They are the hellish beasts born of a dark sorcery. Soon you reach the tributary bridge that is lined with statues, and you catch sight of the twinkling lights of Skade, about a mile beyond. The feral pack is closing fast, and you know that your encumbered horse cannot outpace them indefinitely. You must do something to delay them, and if you and Nathor are to escape in one piece. If you possess mental attack and have reached a high enough rank, do this. If you have the other kind of magic and have reached a high enough rank, do this. If you have neither of these skills, sucks to be you. We have psychic attack. You cross the far side of the river and wait there for the first few wolf creatures that come racing towards the bridge. The pack leader is a massive brute with ghastly yellow eyes. I was going to say throw Lord Nathor off, Dutchy. If the issue is that our horse can't run while carrying the extra person, well, yeet Lord Nathor. The pack leader is a massive brute with ghastly yellow eyes that seem to follow your every move. The moment he reaches the bridge approach, you focus your psychic power at the nearest statue. Your concentrated pulse of psychic energy shatters the sculpture with devastating effect, peppering the hellish beast with razor-sharp shards of stone. Pick a number from the random number table. We picked a high enough number. The pack leader is torn to shreds by the shrapnel blast. Several of his followers are left mortally wounded. The sight of these injuries, coupled with the deafening sound of this unexpected explosion, is more than the remaining pack members can bear. With a howl of fear and frustration, they turn away and race back towards the safety of the castle. You ride to Skade with all speed your exhausted horse can muster, and return at once to the Lucky Bucket Inn, where the remaining members of the troop are billeted. News of your encounter at Castle Tranius comes as a shock, both to the troopers and the innkeeper, who fears for the safety of the real Knight Tranius. I haven't seen him for a week, he says, anxiously rubbing his many chins. We here had no inkling that something bad was happening. Up there at the castle. It's right put the shakes up me, I can tell you. In the warm comfort of the inn, you use your Kai healing skills to mend the Lord Constable's injuries. He is carefully testing his weight on his newly mended ankle when suddenly there is a commotion outside in the street. An angry mob of hard-faced men, many clutching torches, staves, and coils of rope, are marching down the cobbled avenue towards the inn. "Hang the Telestrian thieves," they shout. "String up the murdering swine." "What's going on? Who are these men?" says Nathor. I don't rightly know," he stammers. Ain't never seen 'em before, not from around these parts. We've never had no quarrels with Telestria. You've always been our friends." Suddenly a chunk of cobblestone smashes through the window and an angry cry arises from the mob. "Come out, you Telestrian dogs! Come out or we'll burn you out!" Nathor calls everyone to the rear of the inn, where a passage leads directly to the stables. "I fear this is some kind of ploy to murder you, Grandmaster. If you are to stand any chance of reaching your homeland, you must continue your journey at once. I and my men will do what we can to hold this mob at bay. But you must leave now and go on alone." Another window shatters and a burning brand is hurled into the inn. "Very well," you reply uneasily. "I shall leave at once." Cough, cough, cough. After bidding a hurried farewell to the Lord Constable and his men, you take a fresh horse and leave the inn by a door at the rear of the stables. Some of the mob have gathered in the adjoining alleyway. Aided by your Kai camouflage skills, you evade the bloodthirsty thugs with ease. Keeping to the smaller alleys and passages, you make your way across Skade unseen and head north towards the open plains. You ride all night, using your infravision to help guide your horse through the lush grasslands and keep watch for potential dangers. As the hours slip past, you cannot help but think about Nathor and the men of his troop. They are risking their lives, staying behind as bait. You admire their courage, and it strengthens your resolve to return home. Should the Lord Constable and his men have to pay for your escape with their lives, you are determined their sacrifice shall not be a wasted one. Eat now or suffer damage because you don't eat. Sure thing, we'll eat. In the twilight before you, you catch sight of the River Kinam, less than a mile to the west. You scan the surrounding landscape and note several small tracks, which lead to tiny farmsteads dotting the vast plain, converging at a hamlet which nestles at a bend of the great river. During the past hour, your horse has developed a slight limp, and with a cursory look at his affected leg, you determine that he has thrown a shoe. You know that unless you replace the missing shoe, he will soon be too lame to carry you further. Reluctantly, you decide to enter the hamlet and go in search of a blacksmith. A signpost at the entrance to the hamlet announces its name, Kalma. It is the quiet, sleepy sort of place that in many ways reminds you of Daig, the summer-lending village where you were born and where you spent your early years. Near the centre of this humble village, you discover a smithy, which even at this early hour, you can hear hammering his beat upon the iron. You tether your horse to a rail alongside a moth-eaten old donkey, and call out for the blacksmith. "I'm here," comes the curt reply. On entering, you discover a tall, broad-shouldered man clad in leather apron, shaping a horseshoe on an anvil. "My steed has shed a shoe. Can you replace it?" "Aye," he says, without bothering to look up from his worth, "but it'll cost you 20 loon. In cash and in advance, if you please." How many money do I even have left? Oh. Oh, I got 45 money left. Sure. You place 5 gold crowns on the blacksmith's anvil, and he nods approval. Leave your horse outside and come back in an hour. The sun is now above the horizon, and the hamlet is slowly stirring to life. You decide to while away the next hour or so, looking around its simple shops and riverside stores. One building in particular catches your eye. It is a hall perched precariously on the end of a wide wooden jetty. You can hear an old man's voice, trailing from its open doors, answered by an occasional murmur from the crowd. Inside, you discover a wizened old cleric administering to a sick woman whose head is swathed with bandages. The cleric is attempting to cure the woman of her ills by laying his hands, but the pressure is simply making the pain in her head feel worse. Charlatan, old fake. The aged cleric hears these dissenting voices and becomes flustered. Though he may be an incompetent healer, you sense he is a good man at heart, and you decide to save him from the disgruntled crowd, who look as if they are on the brink of throwing him at the river. "Hold, good brother," you say, moving swiftly through the crowd to the small stage on which he and the bandaged woman are standing. "You should not be placing your hands upon this good woman's head, for surely the source of her pain stems from her aching heart." And with this you take hold of his hands and place them on the woman's chest. Her first reaction is one of shock, and she starts to pull away, but then you transmit your own healing powers through the cleric's hands into her body, and the pain in her head suddenly vanishes. A smile of pure joy lights up her face, and hurriedly she strips off her bandages. "Ishia be praised," she cries. "I'm cured, completely cured." The woman reaches to her purse and counts out 40 silver loon into the cleric's trembling hands. All the while she praises him loudly for taking the pain from her head. The cleric, whose name is Matho, sheepishly accepts her generous donation. Then, quite suddenly, he is swamped by the crowd of onlookers, who all rush the stage at once, each one waving a money purse and demanding he cures what ails them. The frail old man is in danger of being crushed to death until you rescue him from the agitated crowd. Once safely outside, he offers you of all of the woman's donations, for he knows only too well that it was your healing that cured her and not his own. If you wish to accept the money, record it on your action chart. "Where are you bound for, stranger?" he asks. "The east." "That's where I've journeyed from. Perhaps I can offer a word of caution. There's plague in the Stormlands. Be well to avoid the region if you can. If you can't, well, this here potion will protect you. I can at least guarantee that." The old cleric pulls a small flask from his pocket and offers it to you. "Yeah, I'll accept your potion. Why not?" "I guess I'll take the money." The old cleric accompanies you back to the smithy, where he too was having his mount shod. You recollect your horse, and he collects his own ragged mule. You bid each other good luck and farewell before going your separate ways. You leave Kalma and ride due east along a dusty track. Mile after mile of featureless grassland passes on either side of you, until in the late afternoon you enter a range of gentle wooden hills. You've not gone far before you discover a stream of sparkling water, teeming with trout. Feeling tired and hungry, you decide to rest and try your luck at catching some fresh fish for your supper. Within half an hour you've collected 6 fine speckled specimens of Palmyrean trout, each more than enough to sate your ravenous appetite. You are about to construct a small campfire on which to cook them, when suddenly you hear the sound of a wagon and horses approaching the hill on the track from the east. Rather than run the risk of being confronted by bandits, you take cover behind a bush and wait for the wagon to appear. Through the foliage you see 6 well-armed horsemen riding 2 abreast, followed by a carriage, behind which there are another 2 horsemen. The coach is quite small, suitable for no more than 2 passengers at most, and its lacquered black wood looks dull. It is covered with the dust of a long journey, has curtained windows, and a crest adorns its doors. As they draw closer, you see one of the leading horsemen raise his hands to bring the column to a halt. Your heart sinks when you realize he's seen your horse. Rather than take the risk of losing your mount, you call out to the horseman, commanding him to continue on his way. "Show yourself," he shouts in reply. "Unless you be a brigand, you have no need to fear for us." You remain hidden for a few moments longer, using your skills to determine their purpose. You detect no aura of evil about them and rise from the bush so that they may be seen. A pale hand parts the carriage curtains and you glimpse the face of a handsome young woman with jet black hair. Judging by the finery of her dress and the elegance of her demeanour, you assess that she is of noble birth. "You, sir," she calls, with a refined Palmerian accent. "I know you. Please, why don't you approach my coach so that I can be sure?" Okay. Intrigued by the young woman's hybrid charms, you step away from the brushes and approach her carriage door. "Why, yes," she says excitedly. "You are the Northland warrior they call Lone Wolf. I was in attendance at the Elector's court the day he awarded you the Star of Palmerian for your victory over the Senna Druids of Ruil. I am honoured to meet with you in person, brave sir." She looks a bit like Carmen Sandiego. The carriage doors swing open and a beautiful young woman steps gracefully out onto the stony trail. "May I be so bold to introduce myself," she says, pausing to adjust a broad-brimmed hat, trimmed with black corveil? Is this a false animal? Okay, it's a made-up animal. Fur as silky smooth as her flowing hair. "I am the Baroness Corian of the Lucia province." She offers a delicate hand, and you kiss it in deference to her noble rank. Out of the corner of your eye, you notice the leading horseman dismount and come to stand protectively by her side. "Oh, and this is my personal guard, Dorst." You give the gruff-looking fellow a slight bow, and he nods his head in response, begrudgingly. "We are returning from a visit to my cousin's estate. We were hoping to reach Kalmar by sunset, but were delayed by bandits," she says apologetically. "We made 'em pay dearly for wasting our time, though," adds Dorst, with quiet menace. "It appears that we shall now have to encamp here in the hills this night. Perhaps you would care to join us. I should feel much safer if you would do so." Despite Dorst's cutting glances, you agree to the Baroness's proposal. You produce the 6 trout that you have caught earlier and offer them to her as a gift. "Why, thank you," she says. "They look delicious." You help the Baroness and her entourage to set up camp beside the stream, while Dorst, who considers himself something of a master cook, prepares the trout that you have caught. To your surprise, the meal turns out to be excellent. Get 3 hit points back. During supper, you ask the Baroness what news she has heard of events in the east. She tells you that there is war between the principalities of the Stormlands, although this is such a common condition as to be hardly considered news. Of distant Summerland she has heard not. After supper, she excuses herself and retires to the carriage. Dawn posts 2 men to guard the carriage, and he then invites you to play cards with him. "Sure, we'll play some cards." Dorst spreads out an oilskin blanket, and all of you gather round. Seating yourself cross-legged on the ground, he deals 5 cards to each man and opens the betting with a stake of 5 loon. The game is Taluka, common in the inns of Palmerian and especially popular among professional gamblers. With your Kai abilities, it is easy for you to know every card that is being played, and so rather than risk being called a cheat, you go through the motions of the game, maintaining exactly the same amount of money as you began with. After half an hour or so, you suddenly realize that Dorst is cheating. Let's not exposing the, guard captain of the person that we are sleeping with for the night sounds unwise. You fold your hand of cards, pick up the money, and make an excuse that you are tired after your long day's ride. Dorst and his men bid you good night, and as he and his men continue with the game, you go and check that your horse is comfortable for the night. Sleeping with her for the night? As in the camp. Gosh. You are busy gathering some grasses for his feed when suddenly a shriek echoes through the hills. It is the unmistakable cry of a cran. We do have mental barrier, so activate our mental defenses. Instinctively, you crouch and take cover amongst the nearby foliage. You also call upon your Kai camouflage and psychic skills to help mask your presence from the creature circling high above the trees. For several minutes, you stare at the loathsome creatures, not daring to move a muscle. Then you see it fly away and you breathe a sigh of relief. A chill night wind whistles through the trees and you shiver. But it is not the cold that is chilling your blood, it is a sudden fear that you may never see your homeland again. Dorst doubles the guard in case the Cran should decide to return. He and the others unpack their sleeping furs and settle down to the night's rest beside the warmth of the campfire. For an hour you lie awake, staring uneasily at the sky until fatigue overtakes you and you slip into sleep. You are woken at the dawn by one of Dorst's men, who immediately hand you a steaming mug of house, a delicious Palmrian beverage. You notice that the others are in various states of waking, and as you sip your reviving drink, you watch Dorst shaving at the stream. After a while, the Baroness emerges from her carriage. She appears as fresh as a spring flower, and together you breakfast before the camp is struck, and you go your separate ways. If ever you visit Lucia province, she says, be sure to visit my estate in Godorvo. I would be honoured, my lady, you reply, and wave to her until at last her carriage and riders disappear into the hills. The weather is warmer than of late, and you make good progress despite the poor condition of the road. An hour past midday, you are crossing a treeless valley and happen upon a young man praying at the woods at a wayside shrine. He is dressed in a guildsman tunic and cloak, and he appears to be unarmed. Yeah, we'll ask him what's going on. The young man gets up from his knees and greets you with a friendly smile. He's an unusually talkative guildsman, and you soon learn that his name is Frello. He is a journeyman from the Silversmiths Guild of Vanamore. He has stopped here to offer up a prayer to Ashir to protect him from bad strangers on the trail. It appears that he was robbed yesterday by some Eldonorians on the road out of Vanamore. He offers to share half a loaf of bread with you, but you decline his generosity, thanking him nonetheless. For you sense that it is all the food that he has. Mindful of wasting time, you wish him good luck and continue your journey east. How much progress have we made? I mean, we've made some progress. Although we went purely north just to go seemingly south again, so we probably should have followed the south road. Like, why go pure north to then... yeah, whatever. Pick a number from the random number table. Oh no. Beyond the valley lies an expanse of coarse and thorny vegetation, which is alive with wild game. You stop to catch yourself an evening meal and make camp beneath an old twisted oak. Gain back 3 hit points. The night passes uneventfully, and at first light you resume your ride east. Shortly before midday you arrive at the ruins of an ancient church, where a signpost pointing to the east says Vanamore. You allow yourself a smile. With luck, you could be inside the city walls by nightfall. Later in the day you see a dust cloud approaching from along the road. You magnify your vision and see a dozen armed horsemen clad in ragged uniforms of green and black. A sense of unease pervades your mind. These are the colours most often worn by Eldonorian soldiers. Trusting your instincts, you steer your horse... You steer your horse off of the trail and take cover among the trees of a nearby copse. Picking a number from the random number table... Hopefully, no, we do somewhat poorly. As the riders approach, your initial suspicions are confirmed. They are unquestionably Eldonorian guards, or brigands. Their saddlecloths bear the emblem, and their steeds are laden with sacks and pouches bulging with ill-gotten gains. You decide to remain hidden until they have passed. But as they draw level with the copse, your horse suddenly shrieks and rises on its hind legs. With shocked dismay, you see that a harmless grass snake has coiled itself around your horse's foreleg. The cry of your horse betrays your hiding place, and the brigands wheel away from the road and come charging towards the copse, their swords drawn in eager anticipation of yet another easy kill. Bless me. If you wish to unsheath your weapon and get ready to defend yourself, turn to 200. Yeah, we can beat some brigands. Upon the bellowed command of their leader, the onrushing horsemen split into two groups. One group continues to charge forwards, while the others slow to a halt. You sense that they are used to picking off lone travellers. There's no sense in expending the energy of 12 men when the job can be accomplished by 6. This time, however, they have underestimated their enemy, and in a mistake that you intend to make them pay dearly. With stunning speed and accuracy, you let loose an arrow at the leading rider. Its tip punctures his forehead and sends him tumbling backwards, his limbs flailing wildly, to disappear into the tall plains grass. Shocked by your bow skill, the leader shouts a recall to his men. They wheel about and form up in a line behind him, cursing you for the death of their confederate. With a vengeful yell, the brigand chief leads his gang of ruffians in a charge that he hopes will trample you to the ground. You shoulder your bow and draw a hand weapon as the wave of brigands comes thundering down upon you. The leader flashes past, his sword blade whistling inches from your scalp, but he doesn't go far. You turn in the saddle and strike like lightning, splitting his helmet and his skull with a single mighty blow. He falls before his men, but they are hardy rogues and press home their attack regardless. These rogues are surprisingly skillful. We're going to turn on our psychic attack and our other psychic attack. Five damage, but a scratch. You sheath your blood-stained weapons and dismount in order to search the bodies of your slain foes. Your search is thorough and uncovers the following items: 6 swords, 4 axes, 1 broadsword, 2 spears, so much money. 4 backpacks, 5 daggers, food for so many meals, rope, a boar whip, hammer, lantern, blanket, spyglass, a silver seal. If you choose to keep any of them, we'll keep the special item. The spyglass sounds nice. I'll get rid of one of my ropes in exchange for the boar whip. I should take the money. You already have maximum money. You are not allowed to have more money. And then we continue our journey. You reach the city of Vanamore late in the evening, long after the sun has set along the western horizon. The guards at the west gate do not at first look kindly upon a traveller from unknown origin, but when you show them the Star of Palmrian, the medal that their leader, the Elector Manatine, awarded you for victory over the evil druids of Ruil, their cold attitude undergoes a dramatic change. The guard sergeant apologizes profusely and escorts you personally through the capital streets, past a well-ordered collection of dwellings and public buildings, to a grand palatial edifice in the city's northern quarter, the Elector's Hall, the seat of the Palmrian Republic. Trumpets announce your arrival as you stride through the hall's great arched doors. Senators and officials stop momentarily to stare. Then their attentions return to the affairs of state that strike you as unusually urgent. It is almost midnight, yet the Elector Hall is buzzing with activity. You meet the Elector Manatine in his war room, where he and his generals are poring over maps and battle reports. He welcomes you with a warm handshake, but his countenance is unusually dire and agitated, and you soon learn why. "It is good to see you again, Grand Master," he says, forcing a smile. "I was expecting you. I received word yesterday from Queen Avianne telling me of your urgent journey. Yet it is unfortunate that your visit should come at such a time. I would have hoped to have given you the kind of welcome you truly deserve." The Elector then introduces you to his generals, who acknowledge you with soldierly salutes. "As you can see, we are at war, Grand Master. The new ruler of Eldenora, a low-born blackguard, going by the name of Luther, who dares to adorn himself with the title Prince of Duodon, is attempting to seize our northern territories. We are locked in battle with his army of cutthroats near Halona, and, though it pains me to have to admit this, we are being hard-pressed to contain his advance. The war came without warning, and we were ill-prepared. We have few reserves insufficient to support the Halnora garrison, and to counter the many small units of Eldenoran horsemen that are ravaging our plains. It is a dark and testing time for us, but even so I shall aid you as I can. You learn that the Elector has already elicited on your behalf the help of the High Mayor Cordas of Cassiorn. Cordas is reputedly the richest man in all of Magnamond. Manatine tells you that he has ordered the construction of a sky vessel to transport you swiftly to Summerland. The craft is presently being built in Cassiorn. And the High Mayor has sent word that you should go there as quickly as you can. His team of skilled artisans are working on the craft day and night, and he is confident that it will be completed in 15 days. In times of peace, you could expect the 850-mile ride to Cassian to take little more than 2 weeks to complete, but peace, always a fragile state in the Stormlands, has been shattered by Prince Luther's unprovoked attack. A town through which you had hoped to travel. Anxiously, you ask the Elector how the war against Eldenora will affect your chances of reaching Cassiorn swiftly. I cannot predict the future, Grandmaster. The war bodes ill for both of our causes. However, I shall do what I am able to speed your journey onwards. The Elector motions to one of his guardsmen, who turns and leaves the war room. He returns with another soldier who wears the uniform of a captain. If you ever visited the Palmerian military post at Stonewatch in a previous Lone Wolf adventure, turn to this page. You at once recognize it as Captain Siramian, the brave hero of the Darklands War who guided you to Stonewatch and the forest of Ruiel. During your quest to thwart the Senna-Druids 2 years earlier. Hail, Grandmaster, he says, his battle-scarred face beaming with delight. I am pleased to have been chosen by the Elector to escort you north to Halonora. Halona. Well met, Captain, you reply. I could not have wished for a better travelling companion. Elector Manatine permits you the use of his private chambers, which adjoin the war room, where you are able to get a good few hours' sleep before dawn. Shortly after sunrise, you bid the Elector and his generals farewell and leave the city with Captain Siramin and a military coach bound for Halona. An escort of cavalry outriders accompany the armoured carriage in case you should meet unexpectedly with a unit of roving Eldenorans during your journey east. The journey proves swift and uneventful, and as the day is turning to dusk, you find yourself approaching the military outpost of Stonewatch. You stay at the fort overnight and continue on to Halona in the morning. Most of the journey is experienced with a sense of unease, a premonition that something is horribly wrong. But it is not until you catch sight of the city shortly before noon that your fears are realized. So here, down, and now we're head up. So we went from here in about 4 sectors when it took 30 odd sectors to get from here, Skade to here, it feels like. Halona is in turmoil. The approaching roads and outlying fields are littered with scores of broken wagons, dead horses, and the ruined impediments of war. Palmerian soldiers sit dejectedly on the frost-hardened earth, their glazed eyes and bandaged limbs bearing grim testimony to the bitter fighting taking place just a few miles to the north. Battle-weary officers ride among the exhausted men, cursing and coaxing them in a half-hearted attempt to rally them to arms, though few heed the call. Inside the city walls, the situation is tense. Every available dwelling is packed to overflowing with wounded soldiers, and the civilian populace, displaced from their houses by the army's needs, wander the streets and alleys in a state of shocked confusion, adding to the chaos. Captain Siamiane orders his driver to the Canatarium, the largest of Halona's municipal halls, where General Fuchal, the Palmyrean commander, has established his headquarters. On entering the crowded building, a young lieutenant rushes up to Siamiane and informs him that his son has been wounded in battle. "I must go to him, Grand Master," he says, his voice choked with emotion. "I am told that he has not long to live." "Yeah, I'll go with you as you visit your wounded son." You follow him and the young lieutenant along a crowded avenue towards a tented encampment in the city's main park. Under a canvas awning, the captain finds his mortally wounded son being attended to by an army physician. "Will he pull through?" asks Siamiane of the physician, whose white surgical apron is stained a deep crimson with the blood of all those he has attempted to save the day. The weary man doesn't answer, simply shaking his head and leaving to attend yet another poor wretch who is crying out for him and to end his suffering. Siamiane's son has a deep chest wound, which upon closer inspection has been made by a poison arrow. Look at those abs. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 sets of abs. Although it feels like his ribs are too close to each other there. The physician has removed the shaft, but the poison has long since entered the man's bloodstream. His life is fast ebbing away, and you sense there is little that could be done to save him. But we have super healing, and we are super high level. You focus your advanced healing powers on the young man's wound and cause the punctured tissue to knit together. Your treatment deadens his pain and revives him, but you know that this remission is only temporary. The poison in his blood is too strong and well established to be neutralized by your power. Through clutched teeth, he forces himself to speak. He tells his father that Prince Luther's army is being aided by a sinister group of Senna-druids and renegade Nad-Ziranim magicians. Luther himself possesses a ring of power which bestows upon him an invulnerability to weapons. The boy says the ring must be taken from him if he is to be slain. Gradually, the effects of your healing power wears off, and the brave young man slips into a sleep from which he will never awaken. Siamiane is overcome with grief by his son's death. With trembling hands, he takes a blood-stained tunic from beneath the man's head, unfolds it, and drapes it over his now lifeless body. To your surprise, you note the insignia on the lapels are similar to those on Siamiane's uniform. His son also held the rank of captain. "I must go to his regiment. It is the right and fitting thing to do that I take command of them now." After attending to the burial of his son, the grieving captain returns to the Canatarium to find out where the son's regiment is stationed. He learns that they are at Reloni Bridge, at the very heart of the battle. Before he leaves, he thanks you for trying to save his son's life and suggests 2 routes by which you could reach the distant city of Cassiorn. The first and most direct route, but also the most hazardous, requires you to pass through the enemy lines at the Reloni Bridge, across the southern tip of Eldonora, and continue your journey north by way of the Slovarian Plain. The second route avoids fighting at the bridge, but would mean having to pass through the city of Duodon, Prince Luther's stronghold. No, clearly we don't go through the bad guy that's attacking everyone's stronghold, even if it means going through or nearby a current fight. Very well, Grand Master. If this is the way you choose to proceed with your journey, you are welcome to ride with me. You accept Siamiane's offer, and within the hour, you and him are on the road once more. This time riding north on horseback towards the battle that is raging at the Renoli Bridge. When you're within 3 miles of the river, you can see the night sky lit up by the fires of war. 2 miles, at 2 miles, the sound of singing steel and dying men can be heard on the wind. At a mile distant, you can see fields littered with wounded and dying, recently evacuated from the front. The regiments of young Palmyran reserves nervously awaiting their turn to go forward. And when at last you catch sight of the bridge itself, your stomach churns as you witness the carnage wrought there. The bridge and the surrounding banks of the river are carpeted with dead and dying men, twisted into impossible shapes. Massive engines of war bombard the soldiers on both sides, raining fiery death and destruction upon their heads. You have seen many battles in your time, but none to rival the savagery of the conflict unfolding here. Simeon catches hold of a young lieutenant whose face is covered with dry blood. Part of his scalp has been sliced away, but he seems unaware of it. He barks a question, and the man answers him by pointing to a regiment of pikemen stationed on a distant hill. There stand the Black Ravens, my son's men. I must away and go now, Grand Master, and so I bid you farewell. The enemy has been repulsed this last hour, and they are gathering themselves for another attack. If you are determined to cross the water to their side, you should attempt it now before they advance once more. Simeon turns his horse around and makes ready to ride off. By the gods, Grandmaster, you are brave to have chosen this road home. I wish you luck. May Kai and Ashir keep you safe. Farewell, my friend, farewell. As the captain gallops away, you look with mounting dread at the slaughter. To cross the river by the bridge is impossible. The only way across is either upstream to the north or downstream to the south. To the north you see a dense wall of trees, which, judging from the number of arrow-struck bodies lying nearby, you hazard is full of enemy archers. To the south, the far shore is a mass of heavily fortified trenches. I like the sound of the trenches more. You ride to an overturned wagon that lies within 30 yards of the river's edge. To the wide-eyed astonishment... Hail the Pickle 28. Will there be any EU4 in the future? If there's something interesting to do, so far there is little. The only thing that interests me is one of the achievements from the new DLC, but I'm not buying a DLC to do only one achievement. Everything else looked kind of uninteresting, and the DLC itself had no content that I found meaningful. Once there, you make use of the corpses that litter the shoreline to conceal your presence while you observe the enemy trenches. The Eldenoran assault troopers are well dug in. Furthermore, they are aided by a Senna-druid who occupies a nearby trench. He is peering through what at first glance appears to be a giant magnifying glass. If you possess advanced hiding and have attained the rank of and completed enough previous books, turn here. Night Noodleski. Sleep well. When you focus your Kai sensors upon the device, you realize its true purpose. It detects light in the infrared spectrum. It is a means by which the Senna-druids can locate objects in the dark. This needs to be watched by each each story is a standalone one that makes sense by itself, Noodleski, but you'd have more of an idea of what our various skills are and sort of the overlying universe if you had heard the others. But every single book, which we do in one day, like every stream of this is a single self-contained story. You'll watch book 1 when you go to bed? Yep. It's live on the main channel, so there you go. There's the link. Lone Wolf Wednesdays. Book 1. Hit up that video. It is a means by which the Senna-druids can locate objects in the dark by the heat radiating from them. Many of the men whose corpses now provide you with cover were detected crossing the river in this way. Forewarned by your advanced mastery, you slip back into the water and allow the current to carry you for a few hundred yards downstream. Here you discover a shallow bay at the riverbank, which affords you cover from this device, and also from the nearest enemy trench. Quickly you slither like a snake up the muddy bank and drop silently into the trench. A dull-witted Eldenoran is quickly dispatched by a blow from the edge of your hand, enabling you to move further along the log-walled ditch. Just as you are passing the opening to a makeshift dugout, you sense danger ahead. A single file of Eldenoran swordsmen is marching along the trench in your direction. It will be only a matter of seconds before they are close enough to see you. If you wish to dive into the dugout to avoid being seen, if you choose to unsheath your weapon and prepare for combat, we'll hide. You hastily dive upon the chest of a sleeping Eldenoran officer who wakes with a start. Before he can cry out, you punch him squarely on the jaw, knocking him unconscious. As you get to your feet, you notice that scattered on his makeshift bunk are several leather bags and scraps of paper. Sure, we'll snoop through his crap. Among the unconscious possessions, you discover the following: a map of Palmyrin, a backpack, a dagger, a scroll, 12 money, 2 healing potions, a pouch of tobacco, and a military pass. I will trade a meal for another healing potion. I will trade another meal for the second healing potion, because nothing could possibly be more valuable than more healing potions. Now, I would like the military pass and the pouch of tobacco. I don't think we can take the money because I'm already too rich. The map would also be nice. And it's a special item, so I don't need to worry about that. Is the military pass a special item? No. I will ditch our final meal and potentially risk going hungry in exchange for the military pass. And I will give up the lantern for the tobacco. You wait until the line of Eldenoran soldiers has filed past the entrance to the dugout, and then slip outside and make your way swiftly along the trench. Suddenly, there is an earth-shattering kaboom, and a brilliant splash of blue-white fire illuminates the distant bridge. It is the opening bombardment in yet another futile assault across the river. The trench ahead is empty. Its owners have already gone forward to support the new attack. When you reach the end, you scramble over the muddy parapet and race head down across the stretch of open ground towards the small wood. You press on through the trees, your senses alert to the smallest sound. After an hour or so, you stumble across a stream where you stop briefly to gulp a mouthful of icy fresh water. Beyond the stream, the trees are far denser, offering you better cover from the wandering groups of Eldenorans, who seem to be positioned all over this vast timberland. It is not until later that you realize that they have not been posted here, but they are deserters, hiding out in the forest to avoid certain death at the bridge battle. By morning, you've covered several miles of forest and avoided contact with the Eldenorans. Shortly before midday, you come across the outlying huts of a fortified town, which sits astride a busy woodland trail. A glance at your map reveals this to be Fabri, an Eldenoran outpost close to the Slovian border. From the tops of a pine tree, you look down on the settlement, which is ringed by a palisade. 5 cavalry regiments are camped within the perimeter wall of sharpened logs, and you note several Senna-druids conversing with the regimental commanders. It would seem that Prince Luther is in league with the evil plague lords of Ruiel. While you're observing Fabri from your vantage point, you notice a patrol of horsemen wending their way through the trees towards one of the outlying huts. Upon arriving, they dismount and enter, leaving their horses tied to a split rail but otherwise unattended. Tempted by this opportunity, you descend your tree and make your way towards the hut. I do not have advanced animal mastery, so we have to turn here. Stealthily, you approach the nearest horse, using your Magnakai discipline of animal control to keep him calm and untie his reins. But you've only just released them from the rail when suddenly the door of the hut swings open, and you find yourself confronted by the horse's rider, a cavalry scout. If you possess mental attack and wish to use your psychic powers, do this. If you have magic and wish to use your magic, if you have neither, turn here. Psychic attack or psychic has worked well for us so far, but I feel like we should mix it up. You whisper the word of the Brotherhood mind spell, Charm, and point your hand at the trooper's face. Instantly, he relaxes and becomes entirely susceptible to your psychic commands. You will him to turn around and close the door to the hut, and, as he is obeying your order, you mount his horse and escape to the woods. You keep to the trees and head south in a wide arc around the Eldenoran settlement at Fabri. During your ride through the woods, you discover the following items are in the bags and blanket roll attached to the horse's saddle. A tinderbox, rope, sword, blanket, bow, quiver and arrows, money, and spyglass. I already have a spyglass. We can pump our existing quiver up to 6. Am I allowed a third quiver? I am not allowed a third quiver. We're already full of money. It's tempting to get rid of the ball whip. Yeah, we'll get rid of the ball whip and trade it for a tinderbox. Shortly before sunset, you emerge from the trees at a place where the trail splits in 3. A wooden signpost propped against a boulder indicates the directions, destinations, and distances. Chod, 250 miles north. Holona, 50 miles west. Tenza, 20 miles south. You are anxious to leave the hostile Eldenoran territory as soon as possible, and, after checking your map, you set off to the south, towards the Slovian border town of Tenza. During your ride, unless you have super hunting, eat or take damage. Well, luckily I do have super hunting, so I am able to hunt for my food. It is near midnight when you arrive at a ridge which commands a view of the mighty River Storn. Moonlight pours molten silver over the rushing water, illuminating a ford where a crossing can be made over this unusually deep and fast-flowing river. To the far horizon stretch the plains of Slovia, peaceful and inviting. You long to be on the other side, but you suspect that crossing here, despite the ford, will not be an easy task. Heavily fortified border posts stand at the approaches to the ford. At least the guard won't go... Yeah, when he wakes up from punching him out, he'll be covered in food. You long to be on the other side, but you suspect that crossing here, despite the ford, won't be an easy task. Heavily fortified border posts stand at the approaches to the ford, and many canine sentries are scanning the surrounding countryside on both sides of the river. The Eldenorans are watching for deserters attempting to flee the safety of Slovia, a neutral territory in the war against Palmrian, and the Slovians keep watch for signs of an Eldenoran attack. It wouldn't be the first time an invasion by their hostile neighbour had come this way. Patiently, you observe the ford for more than an hour, trying to determine the optimum time to make your move. Then, suddenly, the choice is taken from your hands. In the middle distance, you see an Eldenoran patrol riding towards the ridge. Unless you abandon the ridge at once, they will surely see you and raise the alarm. Taking your courage in both hands, you spur your horse at a gallop and rush headlong towards the rocky slope that leads directly to the ford. Pick a number from the random number table. If you have super hiding, add 3. If you have hunt mastery, add 2. If you have magic, add 1. 7, 3, 1, and 2. We have all of the skills and rolled well on the random number table. Well enough to pass even if we didn't have the skills. The speed and audacity of your crossing, coupled with your skills, enable you to reach the Slovian side without being detected by the guards on either side of the river. As soon as your horse's hooves touch Slovian soil, you spur him onwards and disappear swiftly into the welcoming darkness of the plains beyond. After the dangers of Eldenora, the plains are peacefully Slovian. The plains of peaceful Slovia seem like a tranquil paradise. The grasslands are rich and fertile, and the abundance of game keeps you well fed during the 5 days it takes you to ride north. To the walled city of Takaro. Isn't that where one of the law stones was? Here, at the inn close by the city's cathedral, yeah, where years ago you discovered one of the law stones of Nixator during your quest for Kai knowledge, you spend a fortunate evening in the company of a band of Salanese mercenaries. Aided by your Kai skills, you fleece them of 30 gold crowns while playing cards, and with your gain you purchase a fresh horse for your continued journey home. Your new horse and a night's lodging at the inn cost you 25 gold crowns. You may add the balance of 5 gold crowns to your action chart, maximum allowance permitting. Early the following day, you leave Takaro and set out on the highway bound for Tido. You plan to reach Cassiorn by means of the North Pass, through the Sloverian range, but during your second day on the road are forced to revise your plans drastically. Let's have a look at how we've made progress on the map. Yes, we've hit the money cap. So we've come from here, up to here. That city, if I remember, was the one with the guy who, swore eternal vengeance upon us for preventing him from beating up some peasant. Early the following day you leave. You plan to reach Cassiorn, but your plans change drastically during a chance meeting at a wayside inn with a merchant who has journeyed from Cassiorn. You learn that an avalanche has blocked the North Pass, and travel by that route is impossible. It will be several months before the pass is cleared and the mountain road rebuilt. You resolve instead to reach Cassiorn by way of Veretta, the ancient city of crossed swords, and the following day you resume your ride north. During your ride, you stop to assist a farmer whose cart has shed a wheel. In return for your help, he offers his services. He offers the services of his brother, who operates a raft ferry across the river Quarrel. Gladly, the brother transports you and your horse across the river to Salony, where you enter the great forest by way of a timberland trail. After a full day's ride along this lonely track, you find yourself approaching the outskirts of a town called Elio. During your long day's ride through the forest of Salony, unless you have hunting, eat, or suffer damage. Well, we have super hunting, so we hunt. The first splatterings of rain are dampening your shoulders as you approach the forest town's solitary inn. The smell and soft noises of horses waft from the adjoining stable, and the flickering orange light of an open fire can be seen shimmering through the bullseye glass of the inn's leaded windows. You halt outside the main door and stoop to read a weather-faded board that is fixed to the wall. The Towering Pine Inn, room and stable, 2 crowns per night. We certainly have enough money. You dismount and toss your horse's reins to a sniffing stable boy before entering the dry and welcome warmth of the inn. The innkeep is a burly, ginger-bearded man with incongruous lisp, who attends to his small group of patrons with an air of bored indifference. You hand him 2 gold crowns and in return receive a small and draughty room over the stables. You sleep well, restore 3 health, and wake at dawn. The innkeeper offers you breakfast, but the unsavoury plate of stale cheese and bacon rind that he produces from under the taproom counter does little to excite your appetite. You decline his offer, collect your horse, and set off the trail that leads east out of Elio. For 2 days you follow this trail through the great forest of Salony. During your ride, it strikes you that the weather seems to be reflecting the nature of the people who dwell in the region. Cold and inhospitable. They do not take kindly to strangers, especially those riding alone. On the morning of the 3rd day, you reach a small village called Hopforst, which stands at the edge of a great forest. To the west of the village, you can now see the snow-capped mountain peaks of the Sennas, and to the north stretches the open expanse of rough grasslands dotted with thickets of larch and pine. Larch? What is larch? They are deciduous conifers. Okay, so they're sort of pine-ish trees. On the morning of the 3rd day, you reach a small village. No, we did that. As dusk is dawning, its curtain of shadow. As dusk is drawing its curtain of shadow across the land, you see in the distance the decaying walls of a derelict city. Its broken sign by the roadside says that it is called Amory, yet the newish tracks which branch off the road and avoid the city tell you that travellers on this road no longer visit. It has begun to rain and you are quietly dreading having to spend another night out in the open. Tempted by the promise of shelter, you approach Amory and enter the city. Oh my. At close quarters, the city of Amory gives off an odour of disease and decay. Its flag-stoned streets cracked and broken open by plants. The roofs of its once fine houses have long since caved in, and every surface is damp and mildewed. It is also completely deserted. Even the rats have left. You seek shelter in one of the few buildings with a roof that is still intact. The furnishings you discover are made of the finest Duranese oak and Salonese leather, but none withstand your weight. Everything has rotted and fallen to shreds as soon as you touch it. You are clearing debris from the floor to make a place to sleep when suddenly you hear hoofbeats in the street outside. You rush to the open door and see, to your shocked surprise, a ghostly rider astride a black horse come galloping down the narrow avenue. Tongues of red flame shoot from the horse's nostrils, and it leaves in its wake a trail of green mist. If you have ever visited this town, or the Isle of Ghosts, I remember the Isle of Ghosts in a previous book, turn here. I don't remember visiting this town specifically. A cold lance of fear stabs your heart the moment you see the face of the Ghost Rider. You recognize it immediately to be a Roark. To be Roark, the high-born lordling of Amory. That name strikes a memory. Who chose to follow the ways of evil. Once a powerful disciple of the demon lord Tagazin, and a secret practitioner of the foul arts of the Senna Druids, he has long since perished in the flesh, yet his evil spirit lives on, tortured and restless, doomed to ride the deserted streets of his shattered city. As the ghastly spectre of Roark comes rushing towards you on his hellish steed, his mouth opens and a hideous shriek fills the air. You feel a pressure rapidly building in your head, an agonizing force that threatens to tear your skull apart. If you have mental defense, turn here. You erect a psychic shield to protect your mind from his assault, and you successfully deflect his attack. But his ghastly apparition gallops past. It stirs in its wake a whirling maelstrom filled with rocks, broken glass, and other debris. The whirlwind assails you physically and knocks you to the ground. The Ghost of Roark. 48 combat skill and 30 health. You conduct this combat in the normal way. If you possess a jeweled mace, you may add +3 to your combat skill. just for this fight. While attacking the Ghost of Roark, using your psychic skills, you must defend yourself from the injurious effects of the debris storm. Only by defeating his ghost can you cause the maelstrom to cease. So, sure, we'll use psychic attack, psychic attack. Let's go. We insta-kill him because we are rolling well enough. Upon the instant you defeat the spirit of Roark, the whirlwind ceases, and all of the airborne debris drop harmlessly to the ground. His ghostly apparition mouths a silent scream before it and the hideous melt into the shadows of the night. You sense the evil that pervaded this city has, at last, been banished for good. You sleep easily this night and awake the following morning to the sound of birdsong. It brings a smile to your face to hear that life is already returning to Amory. You gather your equipment, and as you are leaving, you are blessed by an unexpected stroke of luck. By accident, you step on a rotten board, and when you pull your foot free, you discover 10 gold crowns, hidden in the hollow underneath the floorboards. I think I'm already at max money, but whatever. Once outside the broken gate of Amory, you turn to the north and follow the road which leads to Veretta, the principal city of Lyris. At noon, you come to a fork in the road where a signpost indicates 2 different directions, Soren and Veretta. You take the right-hand road and spend the afternoon riding across a lonely stretch of gently undulating plain. During this ride, unless you have hunting, eat or suffer damage. Daylight is beginning to wane when you arrive at the village that is dominated by a fortified manor house. Rain clouds are fast closing in from the west, and your thoughts turn once more to finding shelter. I'll go for the village, not the manor. This village is a run-down, shabby-looking place which appears to have seen better days. The timbers of its gaudily painted houses are riddled with rot, and its citizens have a mean and surly demeanour that you find irksome. You're having second thoughts about stopping at the inn and are only persuaded when you hear the distant rumble of thunder. To your surprise, you discover the owner of the Pickled Scow to be a kind and cheerful character. For 3 crowns, he and his daughter furnish you with a good meal and warm room above their kitchen. Before you retire for the night, they invite you to sample their ale. It is a weak but flavoursome brew, and while you sip it in front of the blazing hearth, they tell you stories about the travellers who have spent nights in their inn. Ask for news about your homeland? Summerland? Oh, I'm afraid not, kind sir. Your home must be more than 600 miles from here. Rare we get to hear what's going on in Veretta, when that's only 20 miles to the north. Hearing the innkeeper mention how far it is to Summerland brings a leaden feeling to your stomach. You still have far to go and little time in which to accomplish your urgent journey. Feeling chastened by the daunting number of miles that you must ride, you bid the innkeeper and his daughter good night and retire quickly to your room. You sleep well and rise with the cock's crow. When you reach the stable, you discover the innkeeper has already prepared your horse, ready for your departure. You thank him and wave farewell to the cheerful man and his daughter as you set off on the road north to Veretta. It's midday when you catch your first glimpse of the ancient city, positioned on a large plateau in the centre of a grassy plain. The blood-red walls and towering spires of Veretta look undoubtedly impressive. As you approach the southern gate, you admire the carvings which embellish the city walls. They depict great dragons with snake-like bodies that intertwine as they flow around the towers and bastions of the city. The guard at the gate allows you to enter without challenge, and you pass through the grand southern entrance which leads to a flagstoned square. Of course we visited Veretta. It's where we got the Lawstone of Veretta, one of the 7 Lawstones of Nixator. As you stop to survey the shops and stalls which circle the busy square, you recall the welcoming help you received from Gwinion, Sage, the last time you visited here. You remember vividly your meeting with him in the Hall of Learning, though you have no idea as to the whereabouts in the vast city these halls are located. Sure, let's search out for the Halls of Learning. You ask a street trader the way to the Hall of Learning, and he points impatiently to an avenue on the west side of the square. A rusty plate fixed to the corner of the building says Quill Street. You ride along the narrow avenue flanked by aromatic jala houses and perfumeries, until it turns abruptly right into a wider thoroughfare called Brass Street. A smile cracks your travel-grimy face when you see the courtyarded entrance to a grand building. It has changed much since last you were here, but despite its new brick and marble facade, you recognize Veretta's Hall of Learning. You ride along a gravelled path to a fountain where you stop and ask a brown-robed scholar if he knows where Gwinion can be found. Without speaking, he points to a nearby hall. A sign hanging over its richly carved oak door says Library. You thank the robed man and dismount from your horse, leaving him tied to a ring which is set to the wall. You then push open the door and enter the library's cool interior. Countless thousands of books and parchment crowd the stone shelves of this magnificent library. Your eyes travel along them until they reach another door at the far end of the hall. There, standing, framed in its arc, is the man whose help you seek. "Welcome, Grand Master. I have been expecting you," says Gwinion the Sage. Gwinion ushers you into an adjoining chamber, where floating bulbs of light illuminate the stone table covered with charts and scrolls. "What news have you of Summerland?" you ask anxiously. "Grave news," replies Gwinion, with an ominous tone. He picks up a chart from the table and traces a finger across the intricate lines and calculations that embellish its ancient yellowed surface. "Oh God, not again. The Dark God Na has opened a shadow gate in the Derncrag Mountains, a corridor between our world and his. By means of the corridor, he has sent a host of winged creatures, the Lavas, to assail your monastery. It is his plan to destroy the young order of Kai warriors while you are not able to lead them. The Shadow Gate opened at this time the last full moon, and since then, the monastery has been attacked repeatedly. Na's servants have your stronghold encircled and cut off from the armies of King Ulnar, who has repeatedly sought to break the siege. So far, your Kai have withstood the attacks, Lone Wolf, but they are weakening. Only you can save them now. But how, you ask? Shaken by Gwynion's accounts of the events that have occurred during your absence, if the armies of King Ulnar are powerless, how could I hope to save them? Do not despair, Lone Wolf, replies Gwinion reassuringly. All is not yet lost. You can save your order by closing the gate, through which Na sends his Lavas minions. You're about to ask how you could possibly achieve this, how you might close the Shadow Gate, but your urgent question is forestalled when Gwinion raises his hands. "Patience, Lone Wolf, for just a moment," he says as he allows himself a smile. "I, humble Gwinion, possess the means by which you might thwart the Dark God's murderous plan." From a secret drawer beneath the stone table, he brings forth a golden crystal the size of an apple. Its multifaceted surface radiates a myriad of tiny beams which shimmer and sparkle, with fiery energy locked within its core. "This is a sun crystal," he says, placing the object into the palm of your hand. Its surface feels pleasantly warm, inviting your touch. If you are to save your brethren, you will have to close the Shadow Gate. This crystal can achieve that aim. It contains sufficient power to destroy the Shadow Gate and prevent its return. You look down at the glowing crystal with a fearful respect. He notes your concern and smiles. You need not fear the crystal's power, for it cannot cause harm within our world. Only if it is cast into another plane of existence will its powers be released. Grand Master, you must cast it into the Shadow Gate that Na has created. This is how you can save your brethren. Then I must away at once, you say, placing the sun crystal into the pocket of your tunic. Now that I have a weapon I need to save my people, I will not stay a moment longer. I must leave for Cassiorn at once. "Yes," says Gwinion, "I know of your plans and have made provision for you to travel to the city of merchants more swiftly. Follow me, and all will be revealed. Record the sun crystal on your action chart. It is a special item. You must discard another one if you are already at the maximum number." You follow Gwynion through a series of corridors to a stable from which he brings forth a magnificent white stallion, the finest steed you have ever yet seen. This is Wildwyn, Grandmaster, he says as he strokes the steed's muscular neck. He will carry you to Cassiorn swifter than any horse you have yet known. Swifter even than your own fine steed, Storm. You look into Wildwyn's intelligent eyes and detect a faint magical aura about him. However, it is not until you climb into the saddle that you sense his true power. 1,000 thanks, Gwynion. I am forever in your debt. With these words, you bid Gwynion farewell and leave the halls of learning. You depart from Veretta through its great east gate, and once again outside the city you spur Wildwyn to a gallop. You are astounded by his speed and untiring stamina. Gwynion was right. He is the fastest horse you have ever ridden. In little more than an hour you have covered 60 miles. It is only when you find yourself approaching a stone bridge commanded by a huge gated archway that you are forced to rein him to a halt. Above the archway you notice the words Denka Gate engraved into the stone. Below them written in chalk is the message, toll for 4 gold crowns. After a few minutes an unshaven old man emerges from a door set into the grand gate. He holds out his hand and demands that you pay him the toll. Sure, why not? You leave behind the gate and follow a road that twists and climbs through densely wooded highland. Once you crest the last timbered hill, you begin a gradual descent towards the Tornor Valley, a fertile expanse of cropland and grassy plain. By dusk you can see the river Qual. Ahead, and shortly before nightfall, you cross its fast-flowing rivers at a bridge in the centre of Quorlen, a busy town on the caravan route to Cassiorn. Just beyond the bridge, you see an impressive hostelry? Okay, so it's like a hostel, but many of it. And adjoining stables. A shield hangs above the courtyard gate, displaying its name, the Barrel Bridge Tavern. Sure, why not? As you enter the courtyard, a boy rushes from the stables and eagerly takes charge of Wildwyn's reins. He praises your horse enthusiastically and promises him that he will look after him while you're enjoying your visit to the tavern. On entering the taproom, you are welcomed by the mouth-watering smell of roast beef and fine ale. The tavern is busy and no one pays you special attention as you seat by the counter. At a nearby table, you notice an argument brewing between a merchant and a man dressed in a shabby hide coat. The merchant is accusing the man of stealing a purse of gems, and the confrontation is being made worse by a third man, a lank-haired bargee, who is siding with the merchant. The accused man pleads that he is innocent, but the other two give no credence to his plea. The merchant suddenly draws a dagger and threatens to slit the man's throat unless he hands over the gems at once. We do have Spirit Walk. Your advanced Kai mastery reveals to you the whereabouts of the missing purse. It is in the boot of the bargee, the lank-haired man who is siding with the merchant. He was hoping to keep hidden his guilt by pointing the finger of suspicion at the other man. He steps away from the table as he tries to move quietly towards the tavern door. He passes in front of your chair. Deftly, you kick the top of his boot. The blow splits the purse and scatters gemstones all over the floor. "Why, you?" growls the filthy bargee, and in the blink of an eye draws a dagger and lunges for your heart. He is so outskilled that it is laughable. Yep, we insta-kill him. The accused man thanks you profusely for proving his innocence, and the merchant, while on his hands and knees gathering up his scattered gems, offers the man one of the glittering stones by way of apology. Red-faced with embarrassment, he offers you 10 crowns for having rid him of a thief, whom he was going to entrust with his entire cargo of gems and spices from Cassiorn. Sure, I will accept your money. The tavern owner is not so understanding. He doesn't like blood spilled on the premises and asks you all to leave at once. You bid all of the people good night and return to the stables to collect your horse. A signpost on the road out of Quorlen says Cassiorn, 260 miles. On a normal horse, you would expect the journey to take 4 days, but on Wildwind, you are confident of reaching the city of merchants before midnight. Aided by a full moon and your sharp Kai skills, you keep Wildwind on a safe course throughout your long night's ride. Rapidly, the miles melt away beneath his hooves, and as midnight approaches, you see the welcoming light of Cassiorn twinkling on the horizon. Using magical spyglasses, the watchful guards above the city's west gate see you coming, and set their torches to fire beacons to help guide you. The gates of the city are thrown open, and as you ride through, you meet a thunderous welcome from its citizens, rich and poor, many of whom have left their beds to cheer your arrival. Not until you see the bulbous golden towers of the High Mayor's palace do you allow Wildwind to slow his pace. You pass through the palace's grand arch, crafted from marble and gold, as you bring Wildwind to a halt, and you see a wondrous skyship hovering over the roof of the High Mayor's chambers. It reminds you of Skyrider, your friend Guildmaster Bane's flying ship. Though the craft above is sleeker and appears to be fashioned not from wood but from burnished metal. She awaits your command, says High Mayor Cordus, as he strides down the steps of his palace chambers, with an entourage of guards and advisors scurrying in his wake. What do you think? He beams, pointing to the ship. Is she not magnificent? Indeed she is, you reply, as you dismount from Wildwind, who, to your great astonishment, displays not the slightest sign of fatigue after your incredible ride from Veretta. Tell me, High Mayor, what is the craft's name? We call her the Cloud Dancer. Within an hour you are standing aboard the gleaming steel deck of the Cloud Dancer, which vibrates gently in tune with the rising power of its magical engines. A crew of Cassiorian engineers set free the horsters that hold her in place, and then, with a farewell wave to Cordus in his court, you give the order for Cloud Dancer to commence her maiden voyage north to Holmgard. Throughout your sky voyage home, your mind is filled with fear and uncertainty of what might await you in Holmgard. You spend most of the journey on the rear deck, alone with your thoughts, staring down at the land speeding past more than a mile below. You watch as a jungle of the Mackenmire swamp gives way to the barren scrublands of the wildlands. There, you catch sight of the pass of Moitura. Your pulse races with excitement, for the V-shaped cleft in the southern Derncrags is where the wildland territories end and your beloved homeland of Summerland begins. Your excitement is nothing compared to the elation you feel when you first glimpse the lights of Holmgard, the summer-lending capital. Guided by beacons blazing atop the king's citadel, the crew of the Cloud Dancer brings her gently in towards the city. The craft is made to hover directly above the citadel, and horsters are lowered to anchor her in position against the wind. You descend by rope ladder to the citadel roof, where you are greeted by a distinguished party of barons and fryearls, led by King Olnar himself. Welcome home, Grand Master, he says, his voice breaking with emotion. He clasps you to his chest, like a father welcoming home a lost son. Thank Kai and Ashir you are safe. Now may the darkness of Nar be lifted from our lands. King Olnar convenes an emergency council of the summer-lending barons in his chamber of state. When all are assembled, Baron Kaldar of Anskarven conducts a briefing, principally for your benefit, outlining the grave situation confronting Summerland, and most especially the new order of the Kai. You are aware of much of what he says, having been briefed already by Gwinion the Sage in Veretta, But you learn that the Summerlending army has lost many brave men attempting to break the siege at the monastery and is too weakened to attack the enemy more. Where is Guildmaster Bane, you ask, when called upon by the king to speak to the council? He is in the monastery. He is accompanied by Lord Ramoa of the Desi and the 10 most senior magicians of Tauren's Brotherhood. They went to the monastery during the early days of the siege. They travelled there aboard the Guildmaster's skyship and, at this point, the Baron hesitates and looks to the king, as if seeking his permission to continue. The king continues on his behalf. Grandmaster, the Guildmaster's skyship was seen falling from the skies above the monastery. Border rangers saw it crash in flames. We fear that all aboard have been lost. The king's words come as a terrible blow, for Bane and Ramoa are among your closest friends. If it is true, then all of Summerland's finest magicians have been lost at a stroke, and the blow is doubly severe. The security of your homelands will have been greatly compromised by their deaths. If you possess spirit walking and divination, turn here. You request the king to excuse you from your council, from the war council for a few moments. He grants your requests, thinking that you wish to grieve the loss of your friends, Bane and Ramoa. And he allows you to use his own royal chamber. Once you are alone, you use your Kai mastery to attempt to make contact with Bane telepathically. You concentrate with all your power, straining your psychic energies in an effort to connect to your friend's mind. To your surprise, you detect a barrier in the ethereal plane, a wall of dark energy that has been placed there purposefully to prevent telepathic contact. You sense that this barrier is the work of the dark god Na, and you call on all your reserves of psychic strength in an attempt to break through it. Pick a number from the random number table. For every rank that you have attained above Guardian, add 1. So how have we actually done on the map? We should be pretty much done. So we went to here, and then we rode our super horse to here, and then we flew via super ship to here, and now we've just got this last little bit of getting to our monastery. Come on. As for how many ranks above Guardian we are, one, two, three, 4. So we're going to add 4 to the number we roll. So we roll well enough to get critical success. You feel your psychic powers burrowing through Naal's ethereal barrier. You have almost penetrated the shield when suddenly you sense the presence of the dark god himself. He is pouring the essence of evil into the breach, repairing the damage you inflict. You cease your telegnosis. You are mortally afraid of allowing Na the opportunity of locating and attacking your mind force. For if he were to do so, you would risk losing not only your sanity, but also your soul. Despite not having made telepathic contact with Guildmaster Bane, you refuse to believe that he and Lord Ramoa are dead. You resolve instead to reach the monastery and destroy the Shadowgate as soon as you are able. And, strengthened by this resolution, you return to the Council of War and announce your decision to the king. You show the council the sun crystal that Gwinion has given you and tell them of how you intend to use it. Ulnar and the barons applaud your plan and your courage. The king places under your command his elite cavalry guard, so that you might use them to break through the enemy's lines at its weakest point and reach the monastery. Captain Duval, commander of the cavalry guard, knows where the weak point is and will guard you and guide you to it. The king dissolves the council and, as the barons return to their armies in the field, orders you to rest in his chambers for some hours. Get some sleep, he says, patting you paternally on the shoulder. You will need it. You ride with the guard at dawn. As the sun rises above the waters of the Holmgulf, it sheds its golden light upon the hopeful citizens of Holmgard, who have gathered to cheer your departure. You ride out of the king's citadel at the head of the Guard Cavalry Regiment, with Captain Deval at your side. Bouquets of summer-lending roses are thrown before the hooves of your warhorses, and your ears ring with the jubilant cries of the crowd as you and the brave horsemen at your back ride with pride through the city streets that lead to the North Gate. Once outside the city, you order the troops to couch their lances and form up in column, 4 abreast in readiness for a swift ride north. At midday, you cross the river Unorum and meet with a patrol of border rangers guarding the junction. A track emerges from the Freeland Forest and joins with the main road from the west. Although unsigned, you recognize its rutted surface. It is the Almena Trail, one of several forest tracks leading to the monastery. Captain Deval tells you that the enemy line is weakest at a place several miles along this trail. The border rangers come quickly to attention when they see you approaching. Their leader, a sergeant with a battle-wounded leg, warns you that the enemy was seen earlier flying over this area of the forest. You acknowledge his salute and give the order for the regiments to form up in column, 2 abreast, before leading them along the trail into the forest. You have covered less than a mile of this woodland track when you find yourself descending a gentle slope towards a stream, a tributary from the Unorum. There was once a bridge which crossed the watercourse at this point, but it has long since collapsed. Its ancient stones now form a ford, which carries the trail over to the far side of the stream. If you have super hunt mastery and are high enough rank, pick here. And we do have super hunt mastery, so your Kai mastery alerts you to a beam of ultraviolet light at the exit of the ford. It is a pencil-thin beam and emanates from the age-worn keystone of the old bridge, crosses the exit just inches off the ground, and disappears into some bushes opposite. "Column, halt!" you shout, bringing the regiment to a stop. "Is something wrong?" asks Deval. "Perhaps. Wait here, Captain. I must satisfy my curiosity." You urge your horse forward and approach the fallen keystone. As you draw closer, you sense that it conceals an explosive device, construction not of this world. It is an elaborate booby trap planted here by Nar's minions, and it is set to detonate should any large creature unwillingly break the beam. If you have magic and you wish to use it, if you have fire, cold, and acid immunity and you wish to use it, or if you suck, go here, here, and here respectively. We'll use magic. You instruct Captain Deval to retreat with the regiment 50 yards back along the trail. When he's complied with your order, you move upstream until you can see at an angle the source of the ultraviolet beam. It is a small metallic polyhedron studded with rivets. You utter the words of the Brotherhood spell Lightning Hand and point your index finger at the device. A tingle runs the length of your arm, and a crackling arc of power jumps from your fingers to the polyhedron. Instantly, there is a violent explosion which peppers the area around the ford with sharp splinters of rock. As the dust of the explosion clears, you signal to Deval to bring the regiment forward. "Thank Ashir you're with us," he says as he leads his men across the fords, "for without you this wicked sorcery would have cost us dearly." After the explosion at the ford, you sense that the regiment is more wary of the surrounding forest. You proceed at a slower and more cautious pace, keeping a watchful eye on the trail. You have not gone far when your eagle eyes detect something amiss in the undergrowth, away to the right. You magnify your vision and see a patch of grey among the green of the forest floor. After a few moments, you recognize it to be the sole of a man's boot. Pause and look more closely. You signal to Captain Deval to bring the regiment to a halt. Then, as soon as they are stationary, dismount and move into the undergrowth alone. Stealthily, you advance towards the boot, suspecting it to be another enemy booby trap. But when you are within a few feet, you see that it is no trap. A knot tightens at the pit of your stomach, and tears well up in your eye as you look with pity upon what you see. You have found the body of a Kai master, his torn and crushed remains, clothed in the grey cloak and tunic that denotes his rank within the New Order. He has been dead for several days. At first, you can hardly bear to look upon his face, but when you do, you recognize him as Swiftfire, the fastest runner of all the Kai, and you suspect he may have volunteered to use his speed to try and break through the enemy lines. It seems sadly, though, that he could not outrun his fate. Respectfully, you cover his face with his cloak and say a short prayer to the god Kai to watch over his spirit. You return to the regiment and continue to ride along the trail. 2 miles further along the trail, you catch your first glimpse of Na's minions. 5 horny-skinned creatures hovering on the breeze 30 feet above. These creatures have wings and tails that shimmer like burnished gold, and armor-like plates which protect their limbs and bellies. From their beaks protrude snaky tongues, and their claw-like hands and feet are tipped with talons that glint like sharpened knives in the sunlight. We saw them both when we travelled to the other world and when dealing with getting stuck in the other world before exiting and blowing up the Shadow Gate. You recognize these creatures at once. They are lavas, winged horrors from the plane of darkness, the domain of the dark god himself. The memory of your previous experiences with these creatures sends a shiver coursing down your spine. With a silent signal, you bring the regiment to a halt. Captain Duval leans forwards from his saddle and whispers, "Here is the enemy who have your monastery surrounded, Grand Master. This is the weakest point in their line. I know this place. The monastery lies over the next ridge of trees. If we are to break through here, we must be quick about it. These creatures can fly, and it would not take them long to summon reinforcements." "You are right, Grandmaster. The risks are indeed great, but I and my men are willing to take them to ensure you reach the monastery. You must get through. You are the only one who can destroy the Shadow Gate and remove this curse from the land." "Very well then, Captain," you reply, unsheathing your weapon. "Pass the order to prepare to charge." Cheers, Tarkus, and welcome, raiders. We are indeed. Those of you just joining, we are up to Book 18 of the Lone Wolf Saga. The enemies have opened an evil Shadow Gate near our monastery, and we have returned home from a previous adventure. We have to blow up this Shadow Gate. You lead the regiment along the trail to where the surrounding forest opens out into a shallow meadow. Along the center of this grassy clearing, there meanders a small stream, where dozens of winged creatures have spread unevenly along the muddy tracks. They are staring intently at the water, seemingly fascinated by the sight of the trout swimming there, and at first they don't see your regiment approaching. A small stream is meandering. How many viewers are we talking? 22, Tarkus. You give the signal to change formation, and to form 2 lines abreast. Then you glance at the wooded rise on the far side of the meadow, knowing that beyond this lies your goal, the monastery. One of the creatures hovering over the stream raises the alarm, and his ghastly brothers growl with surprise. Unnervingly, they clack their beaked jaws as they survey the king's cavalry, as though relishing the thought of their imminent feast. Enjoy your dinner, mate. You order the men to lower their lances, and then, with a smile of grim determination on your lips, spur your horse forward and give voice to your battle cry, "For Summerland and the Kai!" The king's cavalry sweep down the meadow and engulfs the winged horrors, driving their lances through their steely hides. You see 2 of the creatures disappear beneath a thundering wave of hooves, as another 2 are caught from behind as they attempt to take to the air. You strike a creature a blow to its head as you gallop across the stream. It glances off its iron-hard skull, but the force is sufficient to stun the beast. As it staggers drunkenly in your wake, Captain Duval, who is leading the second line, veers towards it and runs it through with his lance. Once you are over the stream, you spur your horse up the grassy side towards the top of the ridge. Now no more than 100 yards distant. You're within seconds of reaching the crest, when suddenly one of the creatures comes swooping out of the sky. It fixes you with its glowing eyes and extends its talons as it comes screaming down towards your face. One sec. If you possess magic and wish to use it, here, if you possess the other kind of magic, or if you suck and haven't chosen either of these skills, we have magic. You utter the words of the Brotherhood spell Lightning Hand and raise your right arm, pointing it towards the belly of the swooping beast. A flash of blue-white lightning erupts from your fingertips, and the arc of crackling energy speeds from your hand towards the creature. It veers in mid-air to avoid the bolt, but its reactions are too slow. The bolt rips a jagged hole in its left wing, and suddenly, off balance by this wound, it loses control and slams into the ground with a sickening crunch. Suddenly you hear Captain Duval, strident voice rising across the din of the battle. "Ride on! Ride to the monastery!" he shouts. You glance over your shoulder and see the captain and his men locked in combat with the winged creatures. More are swooping in from the east now, drawn by the cries of their brothers. The tide of battle is turning against Duval's men, and your heart goes out to them as they struggle bravely against ever-increasing odds. Your instinct is to turn back, but you heed the captain's plea and urge your horse forwards towards the top of the ridge. The best way you can serve these courageous men now is to reach the monastery and destroy the Shadow Gate. You crest the ridge and your spirits soar when you see the Kai Monastery 2 miles distant. The checkered battle banner of Kai flutters atop the Tower of the Sun. Proudly defiant in the face of hordes of winged lavas circling overhead. The monastery is largely intact, though much of the surrounding wall has been damaged, and plumes of smoke rise from the inner keep and training park. Even at this distance, you sense that it is still being held secure from Nar's loathsome minions. The New Order have indeed proved themselves worthy in your absence. However, the pride you feel for your young acolytes is tempered by the price that has been paid. At the base of the Tower of the Sun, you see the blackened wreckage of the Sky Rider, Bane's skyship, twisted and gutted where it fell to the earth. There are bodies strewn about it, but at this distance, even with your magnified vision, you cannot tell if they are friend or foe. Dusk is already upon the land, and darkness will be total within the hour. Mindful of the circling lavas who command the skies, you decide to abandon your horse and continue on foot. It will be harder for the enemy to spot you moving through the forest on foot than if you were to continue on horseback. If you have mental defense skill, turn here. You resolve to reach a clearing in the Freeland Forest, a mile to the east of the monastery, where a secret entrance and passage is located. The passage leads directly to your vault beneath the Tower of the Sun, and it is your intention to enter the monastery this way. Before you set off towards the woods, you use your psychic mind blend ability as an extra camouflage precaution. Quickly, it proves to have been wise, for no sooner have you begun to run than a flight of winged lavas comes soaring out of the clouds overhead. You throw yourself to the ground as they pass by without slowing. Once they have disappeared beyond the ridge, you get to your feet and continue your run for the trees. You rush into the forest and glance overhead to make doubly sure that you are not being tracked by the winged lavas. The darkening sky is clear of the enemy, and confidently you press on through the trees, sure in your ability to remain undetected now that you are in a natural environment of forest. Soon you reach the clearing and hurry to a boulder, which bears the imprint of a human hand. You place your right hand upon it, and the imprint fits around it like a glove. Silently, a hinged stone slab rises up from the ground, revealing a stair leading down into a brick-lined passageway. You enter and hurry along this familiar tunnel, covering a mile before you come to a door that opens automatically at your approach. Beyond lies the Vault of the Sun, your personal stronghold. It radiates a warm golden light. It is the rays of the lore stones of Nixator. Once safely inside your underground lair, you pause to allow the radiant light of the lore stones to watch over your tired and aching limbs. Within the space of a few heartbeats, your fatigue from your long journey is melted away. Recover all lost hit points. Revived and revitalized, you throw open the door to the vault and see a young Kai Master standing guard. He is Saber Fox, one of your most gifted students. Grand Master, he stammers, hardly daring to believe his eyes. You have returned. Praise the gods. Our prayers have been answered. You smile at the young Kai Master, who now has tears of joy in his steel-grey eyes. Yes, Saber Fox, I have returned. Let us vanquish this foe and rid our land of their evil shadow. With Saber Fox at your side, you climb the circular stairs of the grand hall of the Tower of the Sun. Excitedly, the young Kai Master announces your arrival to the battle-weary Kai gathered there, and at first they look at you in stunned disbelief. Then the truth of what they see sinks in, and they give vent to a loud cheer that can be heard all throughout the monastery. The news of your return spreads like wildfire. Two of the first to welcome you back are your friend, Guildmaster Bane. Yay! Bane didn't die. And your trusted advisor, Lord Ramoa. Thank Ashir you are alive, Bane, you say, clasping his hand in friendship. In Holmgard, they feared that you and Ramoa had been killed aboard the skyship. It gladdens my heart to see that this is not so. It warms me to see you safely home too, Grandmaster, Bane replies. Though we have been hard-pressed to keep your home safe in your absence, adds Lord Ramoa with a wry smile, you both have my deepest thanks. You took a great risk in coming to aid these Kai. I have seen what has become of your skyship. You were indeed fortunate to have survived. Aye, he says sadly. Yet alas, 3 of my brotherhood were not so blessed. They perished when the lavas dragged us from the sky. Take heart, Bane, for their deaths will not be in vain. They shall be avenged. And with these prophetic words, you take the sun crystal from your pocket and show it to your grieving friend. With this crystal, I shall destroy the Shadow Gate and put an end to Nar's evil plan. Together with Bane and Ramoa, you make a tour of the monastery to assess for yourself the damage and extent of the battle damage. Your presence among the young Kai greatly improves morale and strengthens their resolve to withstand the lava's siege. You visit every area of the monastery, including the lore halls of Solaris, where the bodies of those slain in battle are laid out awaiting burial. It saddens you to see so many of your fellow Kai dead, and as you walk among their ranks, you recognize many in whom you had held high hopes. Spring Rain, Eastwind, Sharp Dove, Deep Heart, Frostlark, and Firefly. Firefly was lost to us after far too few seasons. As you turn to leave the Lore Hall, you vow to Bane and Ramoa that the sacrifice they have made will never be forgotten. You return to the Grand Hall where Bane and Ramoa tell you of the location of the Shadow Gate. Kai scouts sighted it in the foothills of the Derncrag Mountains, less than 5 miles distant, at a place called Raven's Eyrie, says Bane. I know this place. My old tutor Stormhawk and I camped there on a hunting trip when I was an acolyte, before the war, with the Dark Lord Zagana. There is a track that leads there, and I know it well. You are determined to destroy the Shadow Gate, and you resolve to go to Raven's Eyrie tonight to carry out and carry out this mission. Also, you are aware that tomorrow is a special day. It is Freemarm, the first day of spring, a holy day in Summerland, when traditionally all of the Kai gather at the monastery to reaffirm their fealty to King Olnar and the god Kai. It is also the anniversary of the massacre of the First Order, the day upon which all of your warrior caste except you were massacred by Dark Lord Zagana's hordes. I will destroy the Shadow Gate tonight, you vow. And tomorrow we will celebrate Fehmarn, secure in the knowledge that a lasting peace has returned to our land. Moments later, a doleful bell sounds from atop the Derncrag Tower. It is the alarum. "Hurry, my lords," shouts a young Kai savant, who comes rushing breathlessly into the Great Hall. "The enemy are attacking in force." "To battle positions, my lords," you command, as you stride towards the door. "The time has come for you to avenge your dead brothers. Fight well, fight true. The spirit of the sun god Kai is with us this night." The spirit of the sun god is with us this night? A great cloud of winged lavas is speeding towards the monastery from the northwest. They will arrive within minutes. As you watch the young Kai lords arm themselves and take up their positions around the monastery, you consider where best to position yourself for the imminent battle. If you wish to join the acolytes lining the battlements, turn to 114. If you choose to fight from the top of the Tower of the Sun, the highest point in the monastery, we'll go to the battlements. The lower ranks of the Kai are proud and excited to have you amongst them. Your presence inspires their courage, and you feel confident that they will fight exceptionally well in the coming battle. Lord Ramoa is also at your side, quietly intoning the words of battle spells in preparation for the lava's attacks. "Here they come," shouts Saber Fox from the far end of the battlements. "Take up your bows, my lords, you cry, as the first wave of winged beasts sweeps down upon you from the northern sky. "Make every arrow count." We do indeed have a bow. You draw an arrow and take careful aim at one of the leading lavas. As it dips its head and opens its jaws, you release your straining bowstring and send your shaft whistling towards its face. The fire-hardened tip penetrates its eye, and with a hideous shriek it spins end over end before crashing into the parapet of the North Watch. "Fire at their eyes," you shout, and a cloud of 50 arrows are sent streaming through the sky to seek their elusive marks. More than half find their target, decimating the first wave of the lava's attack in a single stroke. Yet, those winged creatures who do survive the volley are quickly among the defenders on the walls. Suddenly, you're confronted by one of the beasts, who attempts to bat you from the battlements with its horny tail. You leap to avoid the attack, draw your weapon in mid-air, and strike your first blow the moment your feet return to the flagstones of the North Watch. It has reasonably high combat skill and reasonably high armor. We will use extra psychic damage. I actually took more damage from enhancing my kill rate than from the enemy itself. The defenders of the Northern Watch fight like lions. The battle is fierce and bloody throughout the monastery, but the struggle is soon won, and the shaken remnants of the winged attackers are repelled with heavy losses. A great cheer goes up as the last of the battered lavas limps to the air and makes its escape towards the Derncrags. You are moving slowly among the battlements, helping the wounded and praising those who have shown exceptional bravery when Bane approaches. "The time is ripe for you to begin your mission," he says as he watches the last of the enemy wave disappearing into the mountains. They have lost many this night, and it is unlikely that they will return before the dawn. Yes, Adman, it is a pick-your-own-adventure book. But it's a pick-your-own-adventure book that also has a combat system. So you'll see in the top left we have an attack skill, and in the top right we have our health. We had just fought with those lavas and we took some damage. We're at 51 of 58 health. Because we have the healing skill, every single time we turn a page, like if I click here, I'm going to go from 51 to 52 health because we slowly regenerate our health due to our healing skill. There are all sorts of skills. Which skills you pick influence which decisions you're able to take. So because we have the healing skill, earlier in the story when we encountered the guy that was dying of a critical wound, we could heal him partially, which allowed him to live long enough to tell us some information that made our way going forwards easier. We also healed one of our companions when we jumped out of the tower because there was a super enemy undead thing in there. Like, we jumped out of a high tower, took falling damage. Our friend took falling damage as well, but we could heal him so that he didn't have a broken leg sort of thing and we could run away quicker. There's also an inventory system. These were originally physical books that I played as a, 11, 12, 13-year-old kid, and I really loved them. Coming back to them now, truth be told, the stories aren't as fantastic as when I read them as a kid. Like, when I was a kid, these were just mind-blowingly amazing, and I'd never seen anything like them before. The closest thing would have been sort of the Goosebumps choose-your-own books, but these are that much more involved in that it's much more like an RPG game in terms of you've got items, you've got combat, you've got weapons, you've got health. That said, I still think they're pretty good. Like, they're not as mind-blowingly amazing as when I was a kid, but I've been very much enjoying playing these. And this is a digital implementation of it. If you search for Lone Wolf Saga on the Android App Store, I don't know if there's one on the Apple Store, I'm sorry, you can get and play this on your phone, which is what I'm doing. I'm emulating a phone and showing you the phone screen. I would suggest that it's actually a pretty decent game to play whilst, like, waiting for a bus, on the train, that sort of thing. And compared to the original, where I would have literally hundreds of pages of scrap paper tracking my, this is my inventory, and crossing out items as I spent them from my inventory, and page after page of tracking my health going up and down. Especially because the regenerate skill means that every time you turn a page, your health goes up by 1. So, turn a page, scratch out old health number goes up by 1. And again and again and again, and then a fight, your health number goes down, health number goes down. But this does all of that digitally and automatically, which is really, really convenient. So I would have been even more amazed if there was like a digital implementation of this as a kid. Kids these days don't know how good they've got it. Originally these were paid books. Like, I didn't buy them. I mostly borrowed them from the local libraries, and I went to 2 or 3 different local libraries to pick up as many different ones as I could because they all had different ones. But the author, when the turn of the millennium came for the year 2000, as his millennium gift to humanity, he made available a digital copy of all of these books over the internet. And so what the application does is the application references that digital copy so that you don't need to buy the books. Like, this is a free-to-play digital application for phone that makes use of that copy that was donated to humanity by the original author. And it also has, every book will have a little map thing showing you where you're going, and there's a whole big world. So we started off down here, off screen. We caught a boat to this city. Then we rode our horse here, here, here. We changed to a different horse. We came up to here, along here, and then here we got a super duper horse, which we rode to here, which we then swapped over for our flying skyship thing, which we rode to here, and then we've proceeded on horse and on foot the last little bit. And the digital implementation even does this little tracking line to show you where you've been. Which helps you make decisions, because for some of the adventures, you'll be like trying to get to a set place. So for one of the earlier adventures, we had to get to the city of Veretta, and we started out at the monastery. And like, it was a more zoomed in map focusing on sort of this section, but imagine that this same sort of map was like here. And if you wanted to get from here to here as the adventure, it might say, do you want to go north towards this city or south towards this city? And it will lead to a different story, depending on which way you go. And there could be decisions that are more sensible. Like if you were here and trying to get here, you wouldn't go south, you would try and go north. And if you go the wrong way, you might fail because you've made a silly decision. Anyway. Enough gushing about it. Back to the actual story/game. You leave the monastery under cover of darkness and set off towards the northwest, into the foothills of the Dern Crag Mountains. Soon you pick up the trail that leads to Raven's Eyrie, and you follow it for a mile to where it crosses the mountain stream. Mist oozes from the peaty soil, breathing a damp film on the surrounding rocks. You continue beyond the mist-enshrouded stream until you reach a rocky spur of granite called the Eagle's Claw. Here you detect a low humming sound, and your pulse quickens. You sense you are getting close to the Shadow Gate. This resonant hum steadily increases in volume the nearer you get to Raven's Eyrie. 1 second, sorry. Cough, 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 cough. Then, as you come to within a few hundred yards of the peak, you catch your first glimpse of the Shadow Gate. It is an awe-inspiring sight. It appears like a black, semicircular cave mouth that seems to hover, motionless in the air. Crackling snakes of electrical energy surround its edges, and the air before it writhes and shimmers like a desert mirage. You reach into the pocket of your tunic and remove the sun crystal, weighing it carefully in your hands, so that you'll be ready to throw it accurately when the time comes. Beg pardon. The electrical fire that borders the Shadow Gate suddenly flares and gives off hissing sparks, which climb like fireworks into the night sky. Moments later, a trio of lavas emerge from this total darkness and soar into the sky. Judging by their direction of flight, you determine they're going to reinforce the enemy line, which keeps King Olnar's armies at bay. You are too far from the Shadow Gate to hurl the Sun Crystal, and so, with caution, you begin to inch your way nearer to your goal. If you have super pathmanship skill and spirit walking, turn here. I only have spirit walking, not super pathmanship, so sucks to be us, we have to go a more difficult route. You get to your feet and resume your steady climb towards the gate, less than 100 yards distant. But you had taken only a few dozen steps when suddenly another flight of lavas emerge from the Shadow Gate. You flatten yourself against the damp granite in a desperate attempt to avoid being seen. But in your hurry, you lose your footing on the slippery rocks. Pick a number from the random number table. For every rank above Kai Guardian, add 1. We have 4 above, so unless we roll 1, we shouldn't ultra fail. We roll 4, so we middle fail. You fall among the damp and jagged rocks and gash your head on a pointed outcrop. Take 3 hit points of damage. Your sudden movement alerts the lavas to your position, and it circles around the Raven's Eyrie until it is sure that you are human. Then, with a piercing shriek, it dives out of the sky with its claws extended and beak jaw open wide. The shrieking lavas snatches you off the mountainside and soars into the air. As you struggle to free yourself from its mighty claws, you see the creature is carrying you directly towards the yawning black maw of the Shadow Gate, and you freeze in shock. Moments before entering the hellish abyss, you look down and get a passing glimpse of the Sun Crystal lying among the rocks, no more than 30 feet from the Shadow Gate. If you have Grand Nexus and have achieved a high enough rank, click here. So we're going to try and, I think, essentially this skill gives you small-scale levitation. If you wanted to think of it like the Force, where you levitate things, kind of like that. The instant you pass through the Shadow Gate, you are assailed by howling gale winds, yet despite... Oh no, it's not. It's for resisting the coldness of the Shadow Gate. Yet despite the freezing coldness of the abyss, you feel no pain. Your body is protected, cocooned, and shielded by your advanced mastery of the discipline of Nexus. You feel as though both you and the lavas are whirling downwards in ever-decreasing circles to the core of a vortex. Rapidly, you lose track of time. As abruptly as it began, the whirling ceases, and the frigidity of the abyss is transformed into a harsh and blistering heat. Shielded as you are, the extreme temperature feels only pleasantly warm. Nevertheless, with fearful apprehension, you force open your eyes and look upon the nightmarish realm that surrounds you. With dread, you cast your eyes across a nightmare landscape that stretches in every direction, to a horizon dancing with fire. Streams of blazing lava cut fissures through the coal-black soil. Pools of molten mud glow cherry red. They spout geysers of yellow flame that seem to claw vengefully at the orange sky. The heat and the stench of sulfur is overwhelming. The lavas drop you onto a shifting black soil and soar upwards until it disappears into the roiling clouds. In the middle distance, you see a herd of dragon-like creatures, snorting fire as they lumber slowly across the hellish plain. You sense great danger. And when you focus your Kai skills at the approaching leviathans, you are shocked by what you learn. You have been transported to the plane of darkness, the domain occupied and ruled over by Na, the dark god. The approaching dragon creatures are massing to enter the Shadow Gate that lies several hundred yards behind you. They are Na's newest creations, and you sense that if they enter your world, Summerland and the Kai are doomed. If you have super immunity to cold and hot and acid, turn here. If you have a platinum amulet, which does the same thing, do here. If you possess a talisman of Ishir, which is a special item that we got during this particular book, turn here. So correct skill, correct item from a previous book, having successfully found an item in this book. All of these will... This, and this all probably end up doing the same thing, but we'll go with the platinum amulet. You give thanks for the platinum amulet, for you sense that it is protecting your body from the extreme heat and toxic atmosphere of this hellish plane. However, the amulet alone is not enough to protect you from the creatures advancing rapidly towards the Shadow Gate. Here there be dragons. The herd of coppery red dragons continues its relentless advance across the fiery plain. You count more than 100 in total, each as long and broad as a galleon. The largest of their number, who is also the swiftest, comes looming towards you, breathing blasts of blue flame. His scaly brethren halt in their tracks and watch expectantly through hooded black eyes as their leader stalks you like a cat preying upon a helpless dormouse. In a real book, yes. And that is one downside from this digital option, that you can't cheat. Not that Child Me ever cheated, of course. Not even once. Not even when cruelly killed by an instant death RNG run. I would, of course, start the whole book over every single time. High above, swooping in and out of the clouds, are scores of cackling lavas. You sense also another presence, a wispy dark shadow that exudes malevolence. You shudder when you realize that you are in the presence of a manifestation of Na himself. He has come to witness your doom, to enjoy the sport of your final futile battle. Before he unleashes his dragons upon Summerland, the lava's attacks were but the preliminary phase of his master plan to destroy Summerland and the Kai. With terror in your heart, you retreat across the moving sands in a desperate attempt to reach the Shadow Gate, your only hope of escape. The dragon continues to advance, and it utters its thunderous roar as it bares its fangs in preparation for attack. If we want to shoot at the Mega Dragon thing with our bow, turn here. If you don't, or choose not to use it... Now, the question is, does this choosing not to use it mean we run more? If choosing not to use it means run more, I want to be this. So I'm going to pick this and assume that it does. It doesn't look like it means run more. Sad. From the depths of its cavernous gullet, the dragon coughs forth a concentrated jet of white-hot flame that speeds towards your chest. Wide-eyed with fear, you leap aside desperately to avoid being incinerated by this lance of dragon fire. If you have magic, skill type 2, turn here. So we're going to cast Power World Shield. No, hurriedly you utter the words of the Brotherhood spell Levitation and leap into the air. The spell takes effect almost immediately and pushes you high enough to avoid the dragon's searing blast of flame. Your quick thinking has saved your skin, but it doesn't impress the dragon. You escape from its incinerating breath, serves only to make it even angrier. It stomps its massive forefoot down onto the black soil and sends a splash of molten mud and flames soaring into the sulphurous sky. You ease the levitation skill and return to the uncertain black soil as you retreat towards the Shadow Gate. But as you run, you are forced to reach for your weapon as the great beast comes lumbering forward with his jaws agape. Unless you possess a Platinum Amulet, Talisman O'Shea, or the Discipline of Grand Nexus, take 3 damage because of the heat and atmosphere. You raise your weapon before your face, digging your heels into the shifting soil and praise to the goddess Ashia to watch you as the dragon gets ready to lash out with fang and claw. If you have the Ultra Super Mega Summer Sword, turn here, which we do. That's like Book 2. As if in answer to your prayer to the goddess Ashia, the blade of your divine sword radiates a blinding halo of golden light. You sense that you hold in your hands a weapon capable of destroying the dragon, and this realization lifts your spirits. Recover any health point loss you've had so far. The dragon growls with disdain as the light of your sword washes over its scaly hide. He raises a claw-tipped forepaw and lashes out in an attempt to swat the summer sword from your grasp. But you duck the blow and thrust the blade into his side. He roars with pain, but then he leaps at you with frightening speed. Vaxagor. Combat skill 56, endurance 52. He's immune to all psychic attacks except Ultra Super Mega Giga Psychic Attack. Because of the power of your sword upon the plane of darkness, add 4 to your combat skill. Nice. The dragon is better at combat than us, so we have to turn on our Mega Super Giga Psychic Attack so that we're stronger than him. Now we are stronger than him and we have more health. As long as RNG doesn't favor our enemy too much. No, in fact, he's barely scratched us. We did more damage to ourselves by using Super Mega Giga Psychic Attack. We win the fight. The death of Vaxagor stuns the dragon herd into a frozen silence. You seize the opportunity to make a dash for the Shadow Gate. Before Nar can direct his lavas to block your escape, you reach the Shadow Gate and hurl yourself through it, into the whirling black abyss. Once again, we have immunity to coldness, so the coldness of the transporting between realms doesn't hurt us. You draw upon your mastery for protection, and gradually you feel the pain subside. Flashing motes of light begin to whirl past you in the inky blackness. The faint sounds reach your ears, emanating from a pinpoint of light in the far distance. The speck of light grows until it seems to fill your senses, and then with an abruptness leaves you gasping for breath as suddenly you find yourself lying face down on a slab of damp granite. Still shaking from the effects of your return through the Shadow Gate, you slowly get to your feet and look out across the surrounding foothills. Here, on your homeworld, several hours have passed since you were carried into the Shadow Gate and the Plane of Darkness. As you survey the land, you notice that the first rays of the Freeman dawn begin to colour the eastern horizon. You look down at the mountainous slopes, which descend before the yawning black mouth of the Shadow Gate, and to your relief, you see the golden shimmer of the sun crystal. It is still lying there where it fell, 30 feet below where you are now standing. If you have magic and have attained a high enough rank, turn here. You recite the words of the Brotherhood spell, "Totally not Featherfall," and then leap from the rocky slab to where the sun crystal is lying. Wedged among the rocks, the spell slows your descent, and you are able to land easily. With a growing sense of awe, you take hold of the warm crystal and turn to look back at the Shadow Gate in order to gauge your throw. The halo of energy which surrounds the Shadow Gate begins to cackle fiercely, and your instincts tingle with a strange and sinister premonition. You sense that on the plane of darkness, Na has just consigned his newest champions to the Shadow Gate. His mighty dragon herd is on its way to Magnamund, our world. As the first rays of dawn's sun spread across the surrounding rocks, you draw back your arm and hurl the sun crystal into the gaping maw of the Shadow Gate. There is a blinding flash as the sun crystal passes through the Shadow Gate, and a deafening implosion follows, which sucks a whirlwind of air and loose rock into its whirling core. For a few moments you hear a terrible far-off scream. It is the lonely cry of Na himself, lamenting the destruction of his dragon herd, which, by your action, has been consigned to oblivion. The vortex continues to whirl, but it's growing smaller as its collapsing power fades. It shrinks and shrinks until, with a final crack, it disappears completely. Fantasy is kind of more epic when read... Yeah, and that's why I like the, gentle rain noise. I wouldn't also mind having, a gentle fireside fire noise, and we could pretend that I'm, quietly reading it to you by a fireside. I think that would be, peak... absolute peak... environmental... sort of atmospheric viewing. You return to the monastery, where upon your arrival at the North Gate... That said, for that I'd need a nice press-studded leather-backed chair. And I don't have such a nice fireside chair. You return to the monastery, where upon your arrival at the North Gate, you are treated to the loud and joyous applause of the young Kai warriors. Bane and Ramoa praise and congratulate you for your victory over the minions of Na. It is a victory that will long be remembered in the history of Summerland and the legends of the Kai. Congratulations, Grand Master Lone Wolf, for once again you have triumphed over the evil forces of the dark god Na. You are truly a brave and exceptional warrior. Yet, the fight against evil is yet to be won. A new and chilling manifestation of this evil will soon appear on your world, and it is an evil that will test your skills to the limit. The nature of this challenge awaits you in the next Grand Master adventure entitled Wolf's Bane. Alright, and we get through a book without a death. Not like last book with its 23 deaths or whatever it was. God, that book was hard. Cheers all. Thank you for joining me for this book. I hope you have had a lovely time. I certainly have. Join us next week for more in Book 19, Wolf's Bane.